What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 6PR Chapter 111, Bankai Remnant Fire Taidao, one cut is the end, seeking subscription. A team house. Yamamoto Yuanlu looked at this familiar yet unfamiliar face, a starlight flashed in his deep eyes. Among other things, it is the natural quality that Yuhabach has, which is simply incomparable to other Quincy Masters. But what he didn't know was that the Yhwach played in the video was not the real Yhwach. Instead, Lloyd used his ability to imitate Yhwach. Despite this, Lloyd also gained the same ability as his friend Habach. Of course, except omniscience and omnipotence, the younger brother Lloyd can imitate the form and memory of Yhwach. Even Yamamoto Genryuzai in the video cannot tell. Captain, that is the Yhwach you defeated 1,000 years ago, but I believe you can defeat him again at this moment. Shojiro's eyes sank. Although he said so, he knew in his heart that Yamamoto Genryuzai might sacrifice this time. When Yuhabach was in the Lingwang Palace before, he said before that Yamamoto Genryuzai died in battle. So he basically judged that it was this battle. There is no fear at all on Yamamoto's face. He represents the Soul Society and defends Seirei. Even now he understands that Yuhabach possesses the ability of omniscience and omnipotence. He must fight this battle, and he will fight it with all his might. Seirei. Here comes the chief captain. Captain. Madarame Makaku looked at Zaraki Kenpachi with a frown. In the video, Zaraki Kenpachi looks really miserable. He has never seen the captain suffer such a serious injury. Yhwach. So scary. Aegean is not Yuhabach's opponent, but the old man is here, and Yuhabach will be defeated again. Yachinryu looked at Zaraki Kenpachi with some worry in his eyes. Now she is a little worried about Kenpachi's state. After all, Kenpachi, a strong person, was beaten so badly in the battle, and she was absolutely sorry. Zaraki Kenpachi just smiled, not paying attention to the July 20th incident at all. Isn't it just being hanged and beaten by Yuhabach? What's the big deal? That can only mean that at this stage, he is not the opponent of Yuhabach. But the future is hard to say. Just like facing your own Lloyd, as long as he becomes stronger, Yuhabach is nothing in his eyes. The captain will save Captain Zaraki, but I didn't expect to see the battle between the captain and Habach with my own eyes. While Tōshirō was worried, there was also a touch of surprise on his face. The captain is the strongest Shinigami, no doubt about it. However, after becoming a Shinigami for so many years, he has never seen Yamamoto Genryuzai exert his full strength. I have never felt the oppression of the strongest Shinigami. What an exciting thing it is to be able to witness the battle between the strongest two now. Captain Hitsugaya, the next battle will never let you down. Jingle Chunshui was no longer as usual, and his expression was full of worry. It was also because of what happened to Yamamoto Genryuzai that he lost his mind and was defeated by Robert. He didn't want to see Yamamoto Genryuzai die in battle, but for Yamamoto as the captain, this battle is glorious whether he lives or dies. Tōshirō seemed to sense the heaviness in Jingle Chunshui's heart, stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder, and said, "Jingle, don't worry. Don't you believe in the strength of the old man?" Only then did Jingle Chunshui smile. "Of course I believe it. If I say something wrong, the old man will teach me again." The Invisible Empire, the Palace of Ice. On the throne, Yuhabach showed a faint smile, exactly the same as himself in the video. Of course, he knew in his heart that it was Lloyd pretending to be. For thousands of years, he has mastered omniscience and omnipotence, but is Yamamoto Genryuzai making progress, or is he regressing? However, Yamamoto Genryuzai, who is already in his twilight years, is completely unworthy to be his opponent. That's why he planned to let Lloyd pretend to be himself. He wanted to see who would win the battle between the current Yamamoto Genryuzai and his former self. Is that Lloyd or his majesty? Ace Tino frowned slightly. Because this time the inventory is Lloyd, not Yhwach, so he feels that Yhwach in the video is very likely to be imitated by Lloyd using his ability. However, he has infinite fear from the bottom of his heart for Yhwach, and Yhwach in the video actually carries the same fear, which makes him completely unable to distinguish. Hazard also shook his head. If only from feeling, he would never be able to tell the difference. But according to Yuhabach's character, 9 out of 10 are false. It must be a fake, Your Majesty. Even the strongest Shinigami in Seirei is absolutely not qualified to fight with Your Majesty. Gerald waved his hand. And he believes that he who has the heart of the Soul King is the hurdle that Yamamoto Genryuzai cannot cross. Not to mention Your Majesty, he immediately smiled. Guess, Lloyd wins or Yamamoto Genryuzai wins? Musk's eyes widened. Of course Lloyd can win. Don't forget, he is His Majesty now. However, at this time, the big screen continued to play the video. Yamamoto Genryuzai rushed to the battlefield. His cold eyes made Yuhabach feel a little puzzled. What's the matter? Do you have something to say in your eyes? Yamamoto closed his eyes slightly. Without saying a word, he slashed at Yhwach directly. Ryujin Jaka, with endless flames attached, slashed fiercely on Yuhabach's arm. Your Majesty. Seeing this, Hazard panicked, and hurriedly shouted at Yhwach. This is Yamamoto Genryuzai, not Neki Kenpachi, probably a one-hit kill. And Hazard also knew that Yhwach was pretended by Lloyd. If he was directly hacked to death, then the real Yuhabach plan would come to nothing. However, Hazard was worried about the filter, and even Habach, who Lloyd imitated, was of extraordinary strength. The static blood suit easily blocked Ryujin Jaka. It hasn't changed at all, Yuhabach. Yamamoto frowned, but you should also know that you should stop the bad behavior of belittling your subordinates. That is to say, just now Busby, Ace Knot and others attacked Yamamoto and were counter-killed. Yuhabach complained that they were useless. But Yuhabach ignored Yamamoto, instead his eyes sank. You are getting old, Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. Isn't it? Even he can easily block the captain's slash. What kind of monster is this? Tōshirō outside the video is incredulous. If it's Seventh Kenpachi, it's easy to understand. But that is Ryujin Jaka, the strongest fire Zanpakuto. The manipulator is still the strongest Shinigami Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. You told him to block it by stretching out your arm? Don't be careless at all. The captain is very strong, but Yuhabach is no longer what he used to be. It may be very difficult for him to have the all-knowing and omnipotent captain now. Rangaku frowned, not knowing whether the omniscience and omnipotence that Yuhabach said could see through the future and change the future is true or not. But it would be better to believe in its existence than in its non-existence. Return to the video screen. Yuhabach looked contemptuously, as if he didn't pay attention to Yamamoto at all. Whether it is thousands of years ago or now, he is the same. Even though it was Lloyd who stood in front of Yamamoto, the thought he conveyed was Yhwach. You're old, but this anger-possessed figure seems to be reappearing from the past. Crap. Yamamoto Genryuzai, unwilling to listen to his nonsense, the flame attached to his body ignited again. Brush. Just raising his arm, another flame more than 10 meters high rushed away. At a critical moment, Habach touched the badge on his chest. Immediately afterwards, a huge explosion occurred, and two powerful forces collided together instantly. The flames of the explosion can almost engulf the entire Seirei. Hazard, who was watching the battle from the sidelines, didn't dare to be careless at all, and quickly stepped back. If it is one step later, it is estimated that I will be affected by this flame. It's really rare to see Hazard in such a mess. Barsby outside the video looked at Hazard as if mocking. The grievances between the two are not over yet. The spare time has not yet been resolved. So what Busby said was somewhat targeted. His sneak attack before was resolved by Yamamoto's counterattack, which is even more embarrassing. Facing Busby's cynicism, Hazard didn't take it seriously. Instead, Askin said, Busby, I think your situation was worse at that time. Busby snorted coldly. That was Yamamoto Genryuzai. It was normal to fight back when he was found in a sneak attack. Good guy, how much of a double standard? The video screen continues. For the blow just now, Yuhabach touched the badge on his chest, and took out his long sword in time to block it. Seeing this, Yamamoto Genryuzai's eyes flickered brightly, and he said slowly, Yuhabach, have you finally drawn your sword? The sword in front of him was still so familiar, and Yamamoto couldn't help but think of the past. Say it as if you've been waiting for me to draw my sword, Yuhabach said in a deep voice. Although it is a bit embarrassing to have a static blood outfit and then draw a sword to block an attack, but you can't be soft on your mouth. Why do you think I have to wait? Yamamoto Genryuzai frowned tightly, his eyes full of killing intent, as if he could destroy everything. Waiting for you to draw your sword is to shatter your flesh and blood sword and soul together and grind them into powder. Yamamoto Genryuzai held the knife again, and the flame on the knife became more violent, but it seemed to be full flame. The next moment, all the flames disappeared. Whether it was wrapped around Yamamoto Genryuzai's body or Ryujin Jaka's blade, as well as the wall of flames behind him, for some unknown reason, they were all gone. Captain. To use bankai. Jingle Chunshui's eyes were dark, and he pressed down from the bamboo hat. Although he didn't have the chance to see Yamamoto Genryuzai's bankai before, he also heard about the situation after Ryujin Jaka bankai. Captain's bankai? Komamura Sajin's eyes sparkled. He didn't know much about Yamamoto's bankai. But I'm curious, isn't Yamamoto's Zanpakuto Ryujin Jaka the strongest fire element? Why is bankai about to be turned on? The flames are all gone. Captain Jingle, are you joking? Is the captain really going to activate bankai? Omeda expressed doubts. It is understood that Yamamoto Genryuzai fought against Yuhabach thousands of years ago before he could release bankai. But after Yuhabach's apparent death, Yamamoto has become invincible, and there is no reason to release bankai at all. So among the current captains, only Yunohana Retsu has seen the remnant sword with his own eyes. Others are not clear. Jingle Chunshui nodded. It must be, can I still lie to you? A team house. Yamamoto Genryuzai looked at Yuhabach in the video, his eyes filled with endless killing intent. If facing other enemies, he doesn't need to use bankai at all. Use whatever one Kido or white hits, the other party will surely die. But the opponent is Yuhabach, and there is no way to kill him without bankai. But, now, I am a little older, but 1,000 years ago, his bankai was not at its peak. Now, the bankai he has mastered is the strongest posture. So, can bankai with this strongest posture kill Yuhabach at this time? Return to the video screen. Yuhabach's kendo flame disappeared, and his expression became a little subtle. Because he knew what was going to happen next. Bankai Remnant Sword. Yamamoto Genryuzai's remaining right arm holds Ryujin Jaka's handle. Although he is old, he is as energetic as a beast. Lloyd was terrified. Don't look at him now facing people in the form of Yuhabach, although he has Yuhabach's memory and psychology, but when he saw the remaining fire Taisao with his own eyes, he still faced people with enough to shake the sky. The power to shake the ground feels infinite fear. Comparable. It seems to be the sound produced by water being poured on a hot pot and the water evaporating. Ryujin Jaka's blade was scorched and steamed upwards. Is that Bankai from Yamamoto Genryuzai? Everyone felt incredible about the invisible empire outside the video. That thing that looks like a fire stick, could it be Yamamoto Genryuzai's Bankai? Massive Killing's Bell Shi waited with big eyes. When Shikai is flowing, the flames burning on the blade are definitely more magnificent than this fire stick. Why did my hips stretch a lot after Bankai? I don't understand it at all. Isn't Yamamoto Genryuzai bluffing? Masuko grinned. Ace Tino glanced at him. Idiot, don't underestimate the strongest Shinigami. The throne of the Void Knight Palace. Aizen had already had a lot of fun with this fight. No matter who it is, after seeing the battle scene of the strongest two, can you guarantee that your heart will not be surging? Of course, Aizen, who owns Hogyoku, has long since ignored Yamamoto Genryuzai. The only person who can become an opponent is Yuhabach. In the picture, Hazard was also shocked. Bankai. Could it be the charred blade that remains after the flame dies? Yuhabach on the side warned Harzward. Don't underestimate the enemy. The remnant Tachi is the Bankai who sealed all his flames in that sword. Once waved, it is the end. The sword that burns the thing it hits clean with explosive flames. Hearing Yuhabach's explanation, Yamamoto turned away. Speaking of which, you saw this old man's Bankai once 1,000 years ago, right? Yuhabach remained calm. Yamamoto held the handle of the knife tightly, and stared at Yuhabach 2.8 times with murderous eyes. Whether it is the same as it was 1,000 years ago, let's try it with your flesh and blood. However, at this time, the entire Soul Society was affected by Yamamoto Genryuzai's Bankai, and it was extremely hot. Jashiro was sweating, his throat was about to smoke. Jingle Chunshui, who was still fighting Robert, the blood flowing out of the shot right eye coagulated on the corner of the eye, and the mouth also cracked. The quarters of the fourth team, Unohana Retsu and Kotetsu Izan, were not involved in the fight. Seeing this scene, everyone outside the video was shocked. She knows better than anyone the impact of Yamamoto's Bankai. This scene made him full of confidence that Yamamoto Genryuzai, who liberated Bankai's remnant sword, would never lose. Present world. Oh Yuto, I finally sound like a girl when I talk today, Unohana Retsu teased. Unohana Retsu was very worried, and this coldness is brought to him by the hotness of Ultimate's remnant sword. Eyebrows darkened, Unohana Retsu prayed. Please decide the winner as soon as possible, before the Soul Society is destroyed by your own power. Kotetsu Izan rubbed his face, feeling puzzled. Captain Unohana, what happened? The skin suddenly change? The situation of the Soul Society in the video seems to have spread to the present world. What? It's not like that anymore. It made everyone feel for the first time that the real high temperature is not how intense the flames can be, but the infinite power to change the environment. Of course she is not worried about herself, but the whole Soul Society. Surprised that Renji's body was hardened, he checked his body. Kurosaki Ichigo swallowed involuntarily. Just within the scope, is the human body affected? It's just Bankai. The captains can't take it anymore, the chief captain, so strong. However, at this time, the vase on the table also burst. Chapter 112. 15 million degrees of flames. Yamamoto turns into Vulcan, seeking subscription. The destructive power of Bankai, the captain of Yamamoto, is really frightening. Kurosaki Ichigo shook his head slowly, still wallowing in the shock just now. What do other people's Bankai look like? Change the shape of the Zanpakuto, or make some decorative changes to itself. But relying on Bankai alone can cause sudden changes in the surrounding environment, and even evaporate the moisture in the air. Bankai at this level is definitely the top existence. You know, Yamamoto Genryuzai hasn't used any of Bankai's moves yet. The remnant fire Teidao is somewhat similar to Kurosaki's Bankai. Inoue Orihime looked at Kurosaki Ichigo. Kurosaki Ichigo's Bankai is Tensa Zanjetsu, a black sword. Remnant Tachi is also a similar sword. Zanpakuto after Bankai is somewhat similar in shape. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ichigo twitched the corner of his mouth and murmured, Inoue, the similarity in shape is useless. My Bankai and Captain Yamamoto's Bankai have no qualifications for comparison. Even the glass vase was affected by the extremely high temperature and shattered. One can imagine how high the temperature is in the Soul Society in the video. Ishida Uryu's eyes froze. Although he is a Quincy Master, it is reasonable to say that he should not support Yamamoto Genryuzai, but the ancestor of the Quincy Master Yuhabach was the main factor that caused her mother's death. Seeing how good Yamamoto's Bankai is, he was very happy from the bottom of his heart. Seirei, Captain Unohana, are you saying that Bankai, the captain, can destroy the Soul Society? Omeda looked at Unohana Retsu in surprise. Remnant Tachi did make the temperature of Seirei very high, but is destroying Soul Society too exaggerated? Yunohana Retsu is very quiet about Kaido. If the captain continues to maintain the state of bankai, this kind of ending is bound to happen. Then the captain must quickly deal with Yuhabach. Hinamori Momo clasped his hands on his chin and prayed to the sky. No one dared not believe Yunohana Retsu's words, but no matter what, they all support Yamamoto Genryuzai unconditionally. Invisible Empire. Yuhabach on the throne swallowed secretly. Thousands of years ago, he did meet Yamamoto Genryuzai's bankai. But, at that time, Ryujin Jaka's solution was not like this at all. Recalling the battle scenes back then in my mind, there was no such thing as the flame disappearing. Yamamoto Genryuzai, you seem to have become stronger. Yuhabach sneered, however, if your broken arm is repaired, will it be stronger than it is now? Return to the video screen. Both Tōshirō and Kang are still fighting. At this time, Kangdo had taken Dagoran Hiranmaru with the stars and used bankai against Tōshirō. But at this moment, the ice wing behind him began to melt, and the moment the water droplets turned into water droplets fell on the ground, they turned into water vapor and evaporated. It's such a pity, Hiranmaru is no longer usable, you've noticed it, all the water in Soul Society is quietly losing bit by bit. Tōshirō smiled secretly, already guessing the general idea. There is only one person who can do this kind of thing, and that is Yamamoto Genryuzai. The screen changed. Yamamoto held the remnant fire Teidao, stepped forward, and swung the sword directly. Yuhabach dodged back in an instant, but the cloak was still cut by the fire sword. But the imaginary flame did not burn. What's going on? Yuhabach was stunned. Has bankai really changed compared to 1,000 years ago? There is no Zanpakuto Shikai and bankai without the slightest connection. Ryujin Jaka's ability is fire, bankai is also fire, this can't be wrong. So where did the flame go? Yuhabach is getting more and more confused. Taking advantage of Yuhabach being forced to retreat, Yamamoto continued to pursue. Wield the remnant fire Teidao again. When, Yuhabach dodged again, and the blade of the remnant Tachi touched the ground. Boom. The moment the blade touched the ground, it detonated. In the blink of an eye, a crack of tens of meters burst open, and the next step was an abyss. Seeing this, Yuhabach's pupils shrank suddenly, and he suddenly realized. Blade. The blade is where the flames converge. Is it just the blade touching the ground that produces such shocking destructive power? Lloyd, who was outside the video, swallowed secretly. If it was touched by the blade, wouldn't it directly turn into bones? No, directly into ashes. It's really strange bankai. I thought there was no flame, but the blade was hotter, but I didn't expect all the power to be contained in the blade. The pictures in the video, whether it is Ryotsu or the sensory impact presented, made Busby feel endless fear. Fortunately, Yamamoto only used Ryujin Jaka on himself at that time. If it had been a remnant sword, the ashes would have been scattered over the entire Seirei. Looking at His Majesty's reaction, the bankai who defeated him 1,000 years ago is not the smoldering sword in the video, that is to say, the bankai of Yamamoto Genryuzai has evolved and is indeed the strongest Shinigami. Luji's eyes focused on the deep pit in the video. Not to mention being hit by the blade of the remnant fire Teidao, even standing on the same line as the direction the blade is attacking, I am afraid that I will be torn to pieces. Void Knight Palace. Hollybell is frowning. In the previous video, 3 of her subordinate officers fought against Yamamoto Genryuzai in Karakura town. But unexpectedly, Yamamoto did not kill him. Although the positions of the two sides are different, at this moment, she also hopes that Yamamoto can defeat Habach. Lord Hollybell, this old man is so strong that it makes people straight. Sun's expression froze. Not to mention the Soul Society, even the entire Hueco Mundo can't bear the power of the remnant sword. Son and grandson, we are lucky. Apache shook his head. If Yamamoto had wanted to kill them at that time, he would have killed them instantly. The rest of Espada also remained silent, and Neutra was even more autistic. With his own strong philosophy, he never felt intimidated by anyone. But looking at it now, in front of Yamamoto, he is even weaker than an ant. Baragan, the king of Hueco Mundo, had nothing to say, just wrapped Yamamoto in his own breath of death and baptized 10 times. Not to mention aging, it is estimated that he will not suffer any harm. Monitoring room. Yeah, the captain's bankai is like this. Standing in front of him, I'm really trembling. Ichimaru Jin smiled and felt the shock. Silver, do you not trust Captain Aizen? Tusen Kanami turned his ear, and the remaining fire Tachi is certainly very strong. Even Aizen after Hogyoku fusion, it is difficult to catch a hit. But don't forget, Aizen can be resurrected infinitely through Hogyoku, and the attack he caused, Yamamoto Genryuzai still can't bear it. Yamamoto doesn't have infinite resurrections. How dare I distrust Captain Aizen now, Shaw? Ichimaru Jin smiled wryly. Aizen had already caught his handle, and the other party could kill him at any time. Although Aizen spared his life, it would be very difficult to find a chance to assassinate him in the future. Return to the video screen. Yuhabach noticed the attack point of Remnant Tachi, and Yamamoto was very satisfied. After praising his cleverness, he held the knife horizontally. Remnant fire Teidao Dong, Asahi Urin. Concentrate all the flame heat of Ryujin Jaka on the tip of the knife. Neither burning nor releasing explosive flames, just erasing everything it touches without a trace. Yamamoto stared at Yuhabach with fierce beast-like eyes. Your Quincy's defensive essence, even the static blood equipment can't resist. He strikes again. After getting out of the way, Yuhabach just sighed and said nonchalantly, "It's boring, that is to say, as long as I don't touch your blade, I can kill you." After speaking, he waved his knife and came out. Huge pressure fell down. However, under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yamamoto raised his sword to block and cut off the sword in Yuhabach's hand. Nani? Yuhabach's sword was cut off directly? Grimjow outside the video was surprised and at a loss. Even if the attacks of the Quincy Masters are not mainly swords, but as the ancestor of the Quincy Masters, the sword in his hand should be extremely tough. How could it be broken in the blink of an eye when it touched the remnant fire Tachi? If your own Zanpakuto touches it, won't it melt directly? Holly Bell stared blankly at the screen, opened her mouth slightly, and then said coldly, "All of our espadas together are no match for Yamamoto Ueninagi." If this sentence were placed on someone else, perhaps the 14 would have refuted it long ago. But in front of Yamamoto, this is the ironclad fact. No one dares to disapprove. Invisible Empire. Yo, Yamamoto Genryuzai, is this your new bankai move now? It's really tasteless. Yuhabach shook his head contemptuously. This kind of move alone can't defeat Lloyd, who has my ability. Return to the video screen. 1,000 years ago, you were already dead. Today, the old man will reawaken your memory here, Yamamoto said. Yuhabach was stunned, his body stiffened unconsciously, and he was completely shocked. This flame. What's going on? Yamamoto looked at Yuhabach's broken sword and smiled lightly. Sincerely, didn't you listen carefully? I said that this is a remnant fire sword, east. If there is an east, there will be a west. There is no way, let's see it again. Bar. And this time, Yamamoto raised the knife again. Let you bunch of dead bones pick up the memories that are waiting to be burned by the fire. The remnant fire Tōshirō, the prison clothes of the remnant sun. Puff. The atmosphere seemed to vibrate in the friction, and the fiery waves swept across in an instant. Violent flames spread from Yamamoto's feet like a tornado, covering his whole body in the blink of an eye. Boom. Like a mushroom cloud after an atomic bomb exploded, the flames quickly covered the entire jingling court. Wherever the fire goes, it turns into powder. The originally bright sky seemed to be deprived of light by the flames at this moment, and it became extremely dark. Puff. Yamamoto, who was burning all over his body, held the sword again, and flames also ignited on the remaining fire sword. In Yuhabach's widened pupils, Yamamoto, who was in flames, was reflected. At this moment, it was as if the young Yamamoto killed himself thousands of years ago. He secretly swallowed a mouthful of spit. This heat is literally 15 million degrees. Wow. The ground under Yamamoto's feet began to be melted by the high temperature and became molten slurry. He stepped on the lava, in a body surrounded by endless flames, but his pair of eyes were extremely deep. Don't even think about touching me. After bankai, my body and blade will be like the sun. This scene has already choked everyone outside the video. Seirei. Remnant fire Tōshirō, remnant day prison clothes. Tōshiro's pupils trembled, and the three views were about to burst. The temperature of the flame on the captain's body is as high as 15 million, don't say it. If you touch him, even if you stand beside him, you will be melted. In this form, Yamamoto Genryuzai has turned into a Vulcan. His own Zanpakuto attribute is the ice attribute, the polar opposite of Ryujin Jaka. And the lowest temperature that one's own ice can produce is no more than 100 degrees exposed. Not even Rukia's absolute zero field cold. Compared with Yamamoto's flames, it is simply impossible to take it out. Rukia trembled all over. What absolute zero? In front of remnant fire Tōshirō and remnant re-prison clothes, he will be melted in an instant. Not to mention the two, no matter who it is, any ability of ice or water, in front of the remaining fire sword, is weak like dust. The ground has turned into lava, and the captain's appearance is really scary. I've never seen it before. Omeda's fat face contorted. Now he finally understood why Unohana Retsu was worried that the captain after bankai would destroy the Soul Society. With two more tricks, I'm afraid Seirei will turn into magma. Idiot, did you still want to see the captain use this move? Suifeng glanced at Omeda. Turn your own Ryotsu into a 1500-degree flame, with such destructive power, you don't want their Shinigami to live, right? Old man, you are serious. Jingle Chunshui smiled lightly. Judging from the battle situation, Yamamoto Genryuzai was completely crushed. The matter of his death in battle seems to have become a rumor at this moment. If death in battle is a fact, it is definitely not in this battle. Long experience, this Force 577 can turn the originally bright sky into darkness like the void, and at this moment, the captain is the sun. Shubing is like Yamamoto in the video, his whole body is on fire. But Yamamoto is really burning, he is burning with blood. Unohana Retsu's pupils shrank slightly, and she also noticed that Yamamoto Genryuzai's bankai this time was more explosive than it was 1,000 years ago. The throne of the Void Knight Palace. Aizen stood up abruptly from his seat. This shocking scene actually made him feel an inexplicable pressure in his heart. He had never met bankai of Yamamoto Genryuzai. When Ryujin Jaka first turned into Remnant Tachi, he thought Yamamoto Genryuzai was nothing more than that. It just adds heat to the knife body to form a temperature kill. But now the old man turned his own Ryotsu into a 15 million degree flame. This temperature, no matter what it is, as long as it touches it, it will definitely disappear and disappear completely from the world. This is a million times more poisonous than Ichimaru Jin. Even if he merged with Hobyoku's third form, he was burned by this flame and might not be able to be resurrected by Hobyoku. Even, Hobyoku will be melted directly. After being shocked, Aizen sat down again and raised his legs. Captain, I underestimated you. The Invisible Empire, the Palace of Ice. Is this still a human? Gerard sat slumped on his seat, the aura he had just now had long since disappeared. Askin glared at him viciously, you want me to be a fire stick? Although it was a battle between Lloyd and Yamamoto Genryuzai, the latter's progress made him feel that such a tactical plan had achieved results. In the beginning, he had full confidence in Lloyd, but now he has lost even 10%. Win? Askin shook his head and said objectively, don't be stupid, only His Majesty will have a chance to win. As the strongest bodyguard, he knows that he has no chance of defeating Yamamoto Genryuzai. Masuko took over the words. Askin, can you use a lethal dose to change the temperature of Yamamoto Genryuzai? He had never seen so many moves of Remnant Fire Tachi. Cough cough. Gerald coughed lightly, pretending to be calm. Who will give it to whom? Isn't Lloyd fighting that old thing right now? He should be able to win bar? Valkyrie, didn't you say that Yamamoto Genryuzai can't even cross you, and he will be handed over to you in the future? Liji Barrow stared at Gerald. Don't say he is the heart of King Ling, just add the left and right arms of King Ling. If I hadn't followed His Majesty's order, I wouldn't have fought such an opponent even if I was killed. Lloyd, who was sitting on the seat, twitched his mouth and muttered. Be bold and make 2 peaks. Yhwach was very satisfied. On the throne. The members of the Star-Crossed Knights who had their hearts higher than the sky before, their rebellious energy also dissipated. I am afraid that in this raging fire, they will all be turned into dust. Remnant Fire Teidao. If there is east, there is west, everything is there, so does north and south exist. Yamamoto Genryuzai. Almost autistic. Chapter 113. Huohuo 10 trillion dead funeral formation, named Shinigami, seeking subscription. Yuhabach can be sure that the moves of Remnant Sword are definitely not limited to east and west. Even though it was thousands of years ago, he has never seen the current moves released by Yamamoto Genryuzai. But anyone with a discerning eye can detect it, from the southeast to the northwest, absolutely the whole set of moves of Remnant Fire Tachi. The Remnant Sword East, the Rising Sunblade, put all the heat of the flames on the tip of the Zanpakuto, and the Remnant Sword West, the prison clothes of the Remnant Sun, created another 15 million flames, south and north. Yuhabach stroked his mustache with some concerns in his expression. Return to the video screen. Hasward looked at the burning flames in front of his eyes and frowned tightly, he couldn't believe it. The flame can reach 15 million degrees? Such extreme high temperatures are impossible to see with the naked eye? Is it a hallucination? Hasward was overwhelmed by Vulcan, Yamamoto Genryuzai. He even felt that the move just now, the Remnant Fire Teidao Shi Remnant Re prison clothes, was an illusion. No. This kind of real high-temperature burning sensation of fire will not lie. Hartford does not believe that Yamamoto Genryuzai can perform illusions without warning and without his own awareness. It's his Ryotsu. With raging fire reflected in his eyes, he said in amazement. The overwhelming strength is like a real existence, making his raging Ryotsu like a raging fire. Is this Yamamoto Genryuzai? Yamamoto Genryuzai has already stepped forward, and every step he takes, the place he goes turns into liquid. Come on, this is the end, Yuhabach. If you don't make a quick end, the old man and the Soul Society will burn out with you. Boom. The flames flared up again. Looking at the eyes, hair and throat burned by the fire like a god of fire. Yhwach felt a little apprehensive. If there is no static blood equipment, it is estimated that it would have been burned to ashes long ago. Present world. Except for Quincy, if the others don't have the defensive move of static blood equipment, once they get close to Captain Yamamoto, they will definitely be burned to death. Renji frowned tightly. Next to him are Kurosaki Ichigo and Ishida Uryu who are Quincy. It is not clear whether it will be equipped with static blood now. It's not enough to master it in the future, but the Shinigami probably won't have the chance to get close at all. Fortunately, I watched the battle in the video, otherwise, how could I have the opportunity to see this kind of scene? The flames of Captain Yamamoto will probably be spread within a radius of 10 miles. Sato swallowed a mouthful of spit. Back to the video screen, Yuhabach was unmoved. Motomoto Ryuzai snorted coldly. What? Are you just going to watch quietly? Yuhabach's eyes were gloomy, and it was simply too difficult to fight against such an opponent. No, the old man asked inappropriately, the sword is broken, you have nothing to do, there is nothing wrong with doing nothing. Actually, you can escape. Yamamoto opened his mouth slowly, and also stopped at the same place, not moving forward. Yuhabach doesn't understand, is it because this old thing is not as cruel as when he was young? But he thinks too much. Yamamoto suddenly became furious, raising his beard and eyebrows. You run away casually, but the old man will catch you immediately and kill you. Seirei. The old man is too messed up, let Yuhabach escape first, and then catch him back. Jingle Chunshui shook his head with a smile. I didn't expect Yamamoto to be so solemn when he was doing things, but it turned out that he was quite skillful when he mocked people. Jashiro nodded in agreement. Yuhabach's blade has been broken, and the static blood suit can only barely block the high temperature emitted by the captain, as long as the captain continues to approach. Then he must die. Jashiro believed in Yamamoto Genryuzai, not because of the master-student relationship. No matter who it is, whether it is related to Yamamoto Genryuzai or not, when seeing this kind of fighting situation, they will definitely stand on Yamamoto's side. The video screen continues to play. Yamamoto Genryuzai turned into a flame knight and immediately set off to charge away. The blazing flames floated backwards in the whirlwind of dashing, and Yamamoto's body reached the front of Yuhabach in the blink of an eye. In desperation, Yuhabach immediately squeezed out the sacred annihilation, and a huge spiritual light arrow gathered and shot out quickly. Facing the loss of the sacred, Yamamoto Genryuzai bounced the light arrow away with a wave of his hand without blinking his eyes or heartbeat. Sure enough, as I expected, the sword is broken, so you only have the bow and arrow left. Yamamoto Genryuzai taunted again. Seeing this, Habach frowned tightly, watching Yamamoto Genryuzai flying up into the sky driven by the flames. Yamamoto Genryuzai was like a falcon, his sharp eyes fixed on Yuhabach. The body ejected suddenly, and a red-yellow starlight flashed quickly. Yuhabach naturally wouldn't just sit still, he stretched out his palm, and 5 strips of light printed with Roman numerals spread out from his fingertips. And very quickly gathered under the feet to form a hexagram light array. Holy Sing, praise of the sanctuary, swish swish swish. A cluster of spirit particles rose from the light array, forming a defensive spirit wall in an instant. What? It's useless against old people. Yamamoto Genryuzai didn't intend to stop, he hadn't seen this move before. Under the flames of 1500 degrees, what is this light? Does your tactic of being an annihilator only be Annihilation Cross and Holy Annihilation? Yuhabach smiled coldly and explained. This is a huge defensive barrier that combines the offense and defense of the Quincy division. Once you step into it, you will be split by the light of God. Invisible Empire. Has Lloyd used all of His Majesty's tricks? Askin opened his mouth slightly, feeling a little shocked. You must know that the holy chanting and praise of the sanctuary can be used as a defensive barrier. No matter how powerful the attack is, if it is attacked from the outside, it will not be able to cause any damage to the people inside, unless the gap between Ryotsu is too large. Defense is definitely top-notch. In terms of attack, the formation can produce endless sacred destruction, and its lethality is even more first-rate. This move can only be performed by Yuhabach himself. Of course, it can also be used by Lloyd, who has become Yuhabach through the Holy Script Y ability. The opponent is not an ordinary Shinigami, so we must use the strongest moves, Masco said excitedly. They all knew that Yuhabach was strong and terrifying. But I have never seen Yuhabach take a serious shot, and this time I can just get a lesson. Seirei. Integration of offense and defense. Can the commander-in-chief defuse this move? Tōshirō frowned tightly. According to Yuhabach's explanation of the move, even a flame of 15 million degrees may not be able to break through the defense formation. This Yuhabach is really a villain. He can't come out from hiding in the formation. What's the difference between this and a turtle hiding in a shell? Rangaku cursed secretly. Ha ha ha, Yuhabach is a coward. Vice Captain Matsumoto, you are right. Jingle Chunshui shook his head with a smile, and then continued. Just now the captain easily destroyed Yuhabach's holy bomb open, even if it is stretched out of the formation, the captain may not necessarily lose. What about the endless extinction of the divine? For Yamamoto Genryuzai, it was like scratching an itch. Jashiro scratched his head, but the captain will not be so reckless, maybe he can use other moves to crack the holy singing and hymn of the sanctuary. Return to the video screen. Yamamoto Genryuzai's pupils shone with the blue light of holy singing and hymn to the sanctuary. His brows were tightly wrinkled, it's useless to say it all. With a rage, he jumped up. Landing in front of the wall of the holy sing and praise of the sanctuary, Yamamoto Genryuzai plunged the remaining fire sword into the ground. Dead souls, you Wujian's ashes of the dead, swish. The remaining fire sword pierced into the ground began to emit flames, burning from the ground to the ground. The hands of Sha-er and others, for the time being, share the joy of war. The remnant fire Taidao Nan, Huohuo 10 Trillion's dead funeral formation. Boom. A large number of black flames erupted from the remaining fire Taidao and shattered the ground. In an instant, the whole world seems to have quieted down, the sky is still dim, but the Soul Society has become a crippled hell. Creak creak, the ground slowly collapsed, and countless skeletons crawled out of it. At first glance, these skeletons are charred and black, obviously the ashes of those who died under Yamamoto's knife. In the blink of an eye, the skeleton army formed by trillions of skeletons devoured everything. Even Sanctuary Praise lost its radiance, and was defeated in an instant, stopping under the skeleton. Immediately afterwards, more skeletons emerged from the ground. What? Yhwach stood there in fear. What the hell is this? He has never seen such a scene, countless skeletons crawling towards him. Who can keep calm? Huohuo's 10 trillion death burial array, the ashes of the souls of the dead who have been cut by my sword so far, give the blade fire to wake them up, and the awakened dead are for my use. Yamamoto Genryuzai explained patiently. At this time, the Skeleton Legion had already moved towards Yuhabach with the same goal. Seeing this scene, everyone outside the video was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. No one can guarantee that the blood in the body will not be burning in this kind of explosive video made by burning funds. What is that? There are so many skeletons crawling out of the ground. Giselle's expression was extremely ugly outside the video, despite his ability to make people into zombies. But seeing this hell-like scene and countless charred skeletons, he felt extremely terrified. Zombies don't even count as farts by comparison. Huohuo's 10 trillion death burial array. Is there 10 trillion skeletons? Masaik scratched his head, with some doubts on his surprised face. There are indeed many skeletons in the picture, but it is almost impossible to distinguish the number. Ace Knot glanced at Masuko, and complained. Are you an idiot? The souls who died under Yamamoto's knife must not be 10 trillion. Not to mention whether Yamamoto Genryuzai can kill 10 trillion Hollow and Quincy Masters, even if all the creatures in the 3 realms add up, there are not 10 trillion. Huohuo 10 trillion dead burial formation is just the name of the move. I thought there were 10 trillion skeletons. That's right, can you be smarter, Masuko? Bel Shi looked at Masuko contemptuously, and then said, why hasn't the praise of the sanctuary been effective yet? It was directly cracked. It may be the appearance of too many dead people, resulting in different levels of Ryotsu, destroying His Majesty's sanctuary praise. Ace Tino is not sure if this is the reason, but this is the only explanation. Lloyd sat aside, swallowing and spitting continuously. Not to mention witnessing Huohuo's mass funeral of 10 trillion dead in the video, even through the screen, he was sweating profusely. I definitely can't beat it. On the throne, Yuhabach sat up straight and stared at. Looking at the skeleton in the picture, this method looks really shocking. But isn't it a little too naive to want to defeat him just by relying on the skeleton army? Seirei. Captain, is there another move like this? Tōshirō couldn't help swallowing. The scene is too shocking. Countless skeletons are as vast as seawater. How many people should have died at the hands of Yamamoto Genryuzai? Tōshirō is still young, so he didn't know that Yamamoto Genryuzai had such a cruel side. I thought the captain was a kind old man who guarded Seirei in the Soul Society. Result. He has killed more people than he has eaten salt. I can't believe it, the commander's remnant fire Taidownon is actually summoning the Legion of the Dead. Shu Bing frowned, feeling a little suffocated by this scene. Huohuo's 10 trillion dead burial formation is very different from the former remnant fire Taidao East and West in terms of form of expression. And even more brutal, then there's still one remaining fire Taidaobe? Omeda took a deep breath, feeling extremely shocked inside. The very first remnant sword, East Rising Sunblade, had a very ordinary form of expression, it just gathered the heat of the flame on the tip of the knife, which was unremarkable. Remnant Fire Taidao Shi the Remnant Sun Prison Robe is covered with 1,500-degree flames. It's even more outrageous when it comes to Remnant Fire Taidownon. Huohuo's 10 trillion dead burial array summons an army of skeletons from the ground. These more and more outrageous moves also made everyone shift their expectations to Remnant Fire Tachi North. This is already enough to defeat Yuhabach. The captain should not need to use the remaining fire sword Kita at all. Dukan Sajin said decisively. The throne of the Void Knight Palace. Aizen's eyes widened involuntarily. Yamamoto Genryuzai was the leader of the violence group thousands of years ago, and Aizen has investigated this point. But the extent of the violence is somewhat unclear. But seeing the continuous appearance of skeleton legions, he finally understood. Why can Yunohana Retsu under Yamamoto become the greatest villain in the history of Soul Society? Meeting room. It's too scary. Yuhabach is definitely no match for this lineup's moves. Lilinite was surprised. But Grimjow laughed. That's not necessarily the case. No matter how many dead souls there are, it doesn't matter if it's just one dead soul. How can it cause harm to Yuhabach? I see that 10 moves are empty. It's all about momentum. I agree with Grimjow. This trick should be to crack Yuhabach's chant and him to the sanctuary, and the lethality should not be strong. Neutra nodded, agreeing with Green. Zhao does, Joe very rarely. A team house. Beneath Yamamoto Genryuzai's frowning, a sense of sadness flashed in those deep eyes. If he hadn't faced Yuhabach, he would never have used Huohuo's 10 trillion dead funeral formation. This trick is too cruel, and the appearance of the skeleton will undoubtedly push him to the forefront. Yamamoto Genryuzai frowned and chuckled. Did you see clearly? This is the face of the dead whose arms and heads you broke. They will become my brothers and sisters, attacking my enemies until they are reduced to ashes. Return to the video screen. This sentence made Yuhabach laugh, and he mocked. As the head of the Shinigami, it is really ridiculous to wake up the dead. The despicableness of the Shinigami really cannot be underestimated. Soon, the bones that had just been smashed by Yuhabach's punch were piled up again. In front of Yuhabach, the ferocious skull turned into a Quincy with white hair and a blindfold on his left eye. Elgra. Hubert, Yhwach was in a daze, unable to face the cold. Yamamoto Genryuzai said in a deep voice. I am limited by the feeling of my past subordinates. How about it? P.S. These Knights of the Star Cross died at the hands of Yamamoto thousands of years ago in the anime. Yuhabach looked at it seriously, his pupils widened instantly. Ah, Sadelets. You are simply, shame on Shinigami, Yamamoto Genryuzai. But in the blink of an eye, the bones were in front of Yamamoto, causing Yuhabach's blow to hit the pile of bones. As Yamamoto Genryuzai said, the skeletons had piled up into a mountain, and the ghosts from behind climbed the pile of bones, and the black bones stretched out towards Yuhabach, as if to pull him into the abyss. He has a good tongue, but his eyes are not very bright. Numerous skeleton legions rolled towards Yuhabach like walking dead. Not only that, but the bones next to it also turned into the appearance of the Quincy Master. Yamamoto here said that these people died tragically at the hands of Yuhabach, but the manga didn't say that. Yuhabach leapt and punched Yamamoto Genryuzai with 10 punches. With this thing, do you think you can stop me? Chapter 114. False Yuhabach. Yamamoto's last words. Seeking subscription. Elgra Hubert, who are these people Lloyd is talking about? Ace Turner outside the video paused, feeling puzzled. He had never heard of these names. Although the Yhwach in the picture is Lloyd, it also represents the mood of Yhwach. When these few people appeared, Habach obviously felt uneasy. Looking at the outfit, it should be a former member of the Star-Crossed Knights. Kangdu showed a gloomy gaze, and the corners of his mouth curled up tightly. Yamamoto Genryuzai, a cunning thing, actually wants to use this kind of move to make his majesty unable to do it. It's really abominable. If it's just a skeleton attack, it's nothing to Yuhabach. But turning the bones into former subordinates is obviously to disturb Yuhabach's mind. 10 trillion dead funerals, the real ultimate move is the mind-disturbing, despicable and shameless Shinigami. Gerald clenched his fists, feeling resentful. Sereti. Yeah, that's what the captain meant. Jingle Chunshui shook his head in a sudden realization. Huohuo's 10 trillion dead burial array has never used skeletons as an offensive method. Instead, it makes the enemy feel cowardly from the heart, thereby reducing combat effectiveness. It can only be said that this trick is very insidious. That is to say, the commander-in-chief told these Quincies to kill thousands of years ago, and then use them to deal with Yuhabach. Tōshirō roughly understood Yamamoto Genryuzai's fighting intentions. It seems that some villains are doing it, but there has never been such a thing as a villain in war. The captain can defeat Yuhabach completely by relying on hard power. It's a bit unnecessary to do so. Omeda revealed his white teeth and said excitedly. It's up to you to say. Sui Feng felt that it was superfluous for Omeda, needless to say, everyone could see it. Whether it was the beginning of the battle, or the battle until now. Yamamoto Genryuzai is the one with the advantage. It even made them feel that this Yhwach is a bit weak. Doesn't Yuhabach use the power of omniscience and omnipotence? Komamura Sajin's eyes sank, a little worried. Even if Yamamoto Genryuzai's remnant fire sword forms a crushing trend, if he is omniscient and omnipotent to see the future, the ending may not be determined. Shooting Field shook his head. For the time being, I don't know if Yuhabach will use the power of omniscience, but compared to 1,000 years ago, the captain's body is a little older, and other aspects are still strong, and even improved. The omniscient and omnipotent, I said, the rest will be crushed by the captain. Hasn't he made progress for thousands of years? A team house? Yamamoto Genryuzai looked at the skeleton replaced by the Quincy in the video, and a starlight flashed in his eyes. Even if your friend Habach has a great hatred for Shinigami, but in the face of the members of the Star-Crossed Knights who once lived and died together, can you do it well? Elgra, Hugh 950 Bolt. The old man seems to remember your appearance, Yuhabach, don't you miss it even more? Ken, you now. Is that really you? On the throne of the Invisible Empire? Yhwach frowned. Why doesn't he remember Elgera and Hubert, who were members of the Star-Crossed Knights who were born and died with him back then? Yuhabach used to treat the Quincy less cruelly than he does now. If it was thousands of years ago, he encountered Yamamoto Genryuzai's mass funeral of 10 trillion dead, absolutely wouldn't bear to do it. But now, the corners of Yuhabach's mouth rose slightly, showing an imperceptible smile. I don't know if Lloyd can do it. Return to the video screen. Yamamoto Genryuzai, UB*******D. Seeing Yamamoto Genryuzai's schadenfreude, Yuhabach cursed angrily. What a scumbag. Yamamoto turned his head and left without talking to Yuhabach, wanting to be tortured to death by Yuhabach's subordinates. Seeing this, Yuhabach was furious. Wait, old man, where are you going? Yamamoto stopped after walking a few steps, and snorted coldly. Don't make noise, I just want to put some distance away. You can come and kill me, but you have to get rid of your subordinates first. He wanted to hide and watch the show. Yuhabach was furious, and there was a murderous intent in his eyes. A hole. Seeing that Yuhabach had no intention of doing anything for a long time, Yamamoto turned his head and said slowly, do you regret not taking the old bankai away early? No, it's not that you didn't take the old bankai, but you couldn't take it at all. At this time, Yamamoto Genryuzai changed his words, and he had already noticed something. The Quincy Masters first ascertain the power of the opponent's bankai, and after analyzing it, they can take it away. That's why you are most afraid of Kurosaki Ichigo, because his bankai practice is still young and there is still room for improvement, while the old man is the opposite. For thousands of years, the old man has never shown his true strength. If he doesn't know the details, how can he claim it? Nani, my bankai is still young, and there is still room for improvement? Kurosaki Ichigo outside the video was startled, but soon calmed down and felt very happy. In other words, my bankai is not completely bankai? Can we still evolve Baboon King Zabumaru into Su Zabumaru like Renji? There is definitely room for improvement, but whether it can reach my level remains to be discussed. Renji waved his hand and said nonchalantly. On the surface, he doesn't care about it, but in his heart, he feels that Kurosaki Ichigo's growth is definitely stronger than himself. That's Kurosaki, AEBH, who has 3 powers of Shinigami, Shu and Quincy in his body. On the bloodline, it is to crush one's own existence, right? Shout, don't be naive. Kurosaki Ichigo grinned disapprovingly. It's not easy to surpass you. At this time, Inoue Orihime suddenly looked at Ichigo, and said with doubts. Captain Yamamoto said that the Quincy divisions are very afraid of Kurosaki-san, and that Kurosaki-san was fighting with Ji at that time. Bankai was not taken. Why is that? It is true that Ji took out the star metal to absorb Bankai at that time, but found that the star metal was invalid. Otherwise, the winner of the battle is not necessarily who it is. Is it because my Bankai is not completely Bankai, so he can't absorb it? After hearing what Yamamoto Genryuzai said, Ichigo has already confirmed that his Bankai can still evolve. No, Captain Hitsugaya's Bankai is not in full form, so it can be taken away by Kangdu. This reason cannot be justified. Renji outright rejects this explanation. Could it be hollow? Sato suddenly said. Ichigo doesn't have the power of hollow in his body, and the store manager Urahara in the previous video also said that hollow is poison to Quincy. For this reason, they can't take Bankai from Ichigo. Ichigo nodded. The explanation seemed reasonable. Ichigo probably couldn't take away Bankai because of the virtual power in his body. Captain Yamamoto never used the full power of Bankai, so Ichigo couldn't absorb his Bankai. Renji was surprised. This should be the second way to prevent the stars from taking the Bankai. Seirei. Whether it's Ryotsu or Bankai, the level shown by the captain is beyond what Shinzang can absorb. Komamura Sajin showed joy while being surprised. No wonder Yuhabach didn't use star absorption when Yamamoto Genryuzai first released Bankai. It turned out that he couldn't absorb it at all. Ha ha ha, who dares to absorb the captain's Bankai? If you use the Remnant Fire Teidao Shi Remnant Sun Prison clothes, you will be burned to ashes directly. Omeda grinned proudly. As the vice captain of Godai 13, who could not be proud of having such a powerful general captain? That's right, absorbing the chief captain Wang Jia is asking for death. Shu Bing nodded in praise. In the video screen, looking at Yuhabach who was at his wit's end, Yamamoto Genryuzai's eyes froze. It's over, Yuhabach. But at this moment, Yuhabach began to roar. The hysterical roar made the whole Seirei seem to tremble. Yamamoto Genryuzai kept his expression on the spot, quietly admiring it on the spot, and said with great relief. It seems that you haven't ruined your humanity either. Don't act like you know everything. Yuhabach stopped roaring, stepped on the bones, walked forward slowly, and glared at Yamamoto. I said, do you think you can stop me with these tricks? Every time he took a step, white bones stretched out from nowhere and grabbed his legs and arms. In the eyes of others, this is just a skeleton, but for Yuhabach, all these are the subordinates who followed him thousands of years ago. Ignoring them, Yuhabach broke free and bolted towards Yamamoto Genryuzai. The old man can see the tears in your eyes. Yuhabach, it's very painful. You can't even get close to me if you don't knock down these dead bodies. You hate to call the dead subordinates back to the battlefield cruelly. Yamamoto Genryuzai's voice was full of anger, and he swung his knife again. That remnant fire sword with black residual flames ignited a raging fire again. He widened his pupils, ferociously like a ferocious beast, and shouted angrily, but all of this is far worse than the pain and resentment of the Shinigami who died tragically at your hands. Yamamoto Genryuzai couldn't contain his anger when he thought of the tragic death of Chojiro. Remnant fire Tachi north. Boom. The temperature rose again, and even the flames turned scarlet. The world is ashes. Yamamoto Genryuzai swung Hyman violently as if he was wearing a flame armor. One swing. One strike ends. The blazing wave was cut out along with the sword energy, enough to shake the heavens and earth, destroying thousands of corpses in an instant. Yuhabach's body has already been cut to pieces. This. What a lethal force. Kurosaki Ichigo, who was outside the video, swallowed. Remnant fire Teidao north. The world is ashes. Whether it is speed, attack range or lethality, it is definitely the strongest move among the 4 moves. In terms of damage alone, it may not be as powerful as the 15 million degree Remnant Sun Prison clothes, but it is definitely faster and has a wider range than the moves of Shi. Judging from the degree of destruction of Seirei and the ending of the disappearance of thousands of dead bodies, it can basically be concluded that Remnant Fire Teidao North Ashes of Heaven and Earth is the strongest move. Even the static blood outfit of the ancestor of the Quincy Master couldn't defend against it. It is estimated that no one in the world can resist this trick. The Invisible Empire, the Palace of Ice. Defeated, Lloyd really isn't the opponent. Gerard prayed for Lloyd. Not to mention Lloyd, even if he was hacked, he probably has to be directly accounted for. As Yamamoto Genryuzai said, the self thousands of years ago defeated Yuhabach without using all his power. Lloyd's incarnation of Yuhabach, let everyone re-witness the fact that Yamamoto Genryuzai is stronger. With this kind of injury, Lloyd should still survive? Lloyd looked worriedly at his younger brother beside him. The younger brother was injured for Yuhabach's test of Yamamoto's strength if left alone. Lloyd would definitely die, but if Yuhabach rescued him, he would survive. Being hit by Yamamoto Genryuzai's remnant fire Taedown North, Heaven and Earth Ashes, still want to live? Bambietta shook his head and sneered. His ability is to critically strike and release spirit bombs. Even if hundreds of millions of spiritual bombs are added together, I am afraid there will be none. Lloyd wants to live? Do you think he is the real Yhwach? Bambi loves him and even feels that if the real Yhwach suffers this blow, he will still die. Seirei. Yuhabach should be dead, right? Tōshirō looked at Yuhabach, who was almost cut off in the video, and he was basically sure that this battle was led by Yamamoto Genryuzai. Victory ends. Unlike Aizen, Yhwach possesses the power of Hogyoku, and can revive even such mortal wounds. Killed by Yamamoto Genryuzai just like 1,000 years ago. No, Yuhabach should have other means. Sui Feng's eyes were piercing. In the previous video, Yuhabach attacked the Soul King Palace. According to the timeline, it is impossible for him to die in this battle. Was it resurrected later in some way? For example, use sanctification again. This Yuhabach doesn't seem to be the real Yuhabach. Jingle Chunshui caressed the bamboo hat, his eyes sank. Don't forget what Lloyd's ability is. Ability to imitate others, but it didn't say that the only thing Lloyd could imitate was the opponent's ability. In other words, Lloyd doesn't have to become exactly the same as the enemy, he can still imitate a stronger person, and then participate in the battle. Jashiro nodded, with a worried look on his face. Say some bad news. The Yuhabach in the video is most likely Lloyd. After all, this is Lloyd's inventory, and the fight only saw Yuhabach and Yamamoto Genryuzai. Because of the previous battle between Lloyd and Zaraki Kenpachi, everyone subconsciously thought that you could only imitate and become an enemy, so they didn't realize that Yhwach was transformed by Lloyd. This matter. But judging from the performance of Yuhabach now, they seem to be sure. Yuhabach is so despicable. Komamura Sajin bared her fangs, her face full of anger. A team house. Old man. Seems to have stopped here. Yamamoto Genryuzai's deep eyes were full of regret. He had long thought that Lloyd had transformed Yuhabach, but that was just a guess. He was not convinced until the end of the battle between himself and Yuhabach in the video. Not to mention my progress, after all, I am already old, and I haven't used my real strength 1,000 years ago, but there will be no obvious regression. And Yuhabach's regained power through sanctification is definitely stronger than ever. But Yamamoto Genryuzai obviously felt that his performance in the video was not as good as it was 1,000 years ago. Captain. Sparrow Chojiro looked serious, he didn't know what to say, so he just kept silent. Jingle, Jashiro. Seirei and Soul Society will be handed over to you. Yamamoto Genryuzai sighed secretly, as if to say his last words. Return to the video screen. Yamamoto Genryuzai released bankai, the burnt ash on the remaining fire sword slowly faded, and the sky returned to light. Wow. The rain fell slowly and soon turned into a downpour. But at this time, Yuhabach slowly raised his hand, panting and said, "The mission you bestowed was not achieved, Master Yuhabach." Yamamoto Genryuzai looked at the explosion point, his pupils shrank suddenly. Yamamoto Genryuzai was taken aback, and hurriedly turned around. What the hell are you? Brush your teeth. The location of the explosion was the first team's team building. The war was started by Yuhabach alone, and he was also the one who lost the battle. Who is he apologizing to? With a spiritual beam of this scale, it is very likely that it will die if it hits Yayuen. Regardless of Yamamoto's worries, the real Yuhabach has already fallen behind him. Boom. When the words were spoken, his voice had changed. Suddenly, a huge blue beam of light fell behind him. Terribly sorry. Still. Can't do it. Hearing Yuhabach's dying voice, Yamamoto stopped and turned his head slightly. As the leader, who are you apologizing to? The flames on Yamamoto Genryuzai's body were also extinguished by the rain. Looking at the body of Yuhabach on the ground, he remained solemn and turned away slowly. The moisture in the entire Seirei is evaporated, and it is replenished in time after the residual fire Tachi is removed. Yuhabach, who still had a trace of breath, opened his mouth with difficulty. Chapter 115. Yamamoto's death. The killer group finally comes to an end, seeking subscription. Is that the real Yuhabach? Jingle Chunshui outside the video frowned involuntarily. At first, he still guessed that the defeated Yhwach was pretending to be Lloyd. Now that it is clear, he feels like there is a hanging stone in his heart, which makes him breathless. If there is no accident, there will be an accident. The captain has used almost all of Ryotsu to deal with Lloyd and Yuhabach, who suddenly appeared. The corner of Sui Feng's mouth twitched violently, swallowed a mouthful of spit, and didn't finish speaking. But everyone already understood what she meant. Even though Lloyd's imitated Yuhabach and the original Yuhabach are quite powerful, after a catastrophic battle, Yamamoto Genryuzai's energy reserves have been consumed. Not to mention Yuhabach, even a Quincy at Miracle Gerard's level could kill Yamamoto Genryuzai. Jashiro's eyes were full of loneliness. Looking at the back of Yamamoto Genryuzai in the video, he sighed secretly. Yeah, don't be so dejected. If the captain is here, I'm afraid everyone will give you a headbutt. Jingle Chunshui gritted his teeth, swallowed the grief in his stomach, and showed a smile on his face to adjust the atmosphere. Jashiro, it's you, so I hope the old man dies. Maybe he will bankai again and defeat the real friend Habach. Jashiro glanced at the downcast Shinigami, coughed lightly and echoed. Yes, aren't we all still there? That kid Kurosaki Ichigo will also come over, and we will encircle Yuhabach and let the Star-Crossed Knights destroy it on the spot. I agree. Komamura Sajin raised his hand and roared firmly. Anyway, we already know the information about the Star Chapter's capture of Bankai. When the time comes, we will ask Urahara Kazuki to make the pill to break the Star Chapter's power in advance. The Quincy Masters are here, just to die. Hearing this, Kurotsuchi Mayuri seemed to have been greatly humiliated, and stared at Komamura Sajin with cold eyes. Dog. Captain Komamura, why do you think that only Urahara Kazuki can develop it after analyzing the ability of the stars? What is the way to break it out? Komamura Sajin was stunned for a moment, and then with a sly smile. Yes, Captain Nirvana seems to be able to learn from Urahara Kazuki's plan. Kurotsuchi Mayuri waved his hand. It's useless, you can just join the Urahara store directly. Seeing this, the vice captain and the chief officers couldn't help laughing. Invisible Empire. Your Majesty has finally appeared. The Majesty Lloyd imitated is so weak that I can't stand it anymore. Marcus grinned in disgust and complained. When Lloyd heard this, his face turned red with embarrassment. What is the ability to imitate is too weak? It is clear that there is no way to copy the power of Yhwach. Even if he possesses the holy text Wairu himself, don't forget that it is Yuhabach who gave him the ability. How can it be possible to completely become Yuhabach? But it is enough to push Yamamoto Genryuzai to this point. That's right, but His Majesty definitely wants to end Yamamoto Genryuzai's 1,000-year-old opponent with his own hands. Even if Lloyd defeats him, Your Majesty will do it himself. Ace Tino knew Yuhabach. Cruel and merciless, no mercy, returned to the video screen. Sensing a powerful Ryotsu behind him, Yamamoto Genryuzai seemed to understand, turned his head to look at the real Yuhabach with a murderous gaze, and said angrily, Yuhabach, you be *******D. You are doing well, Knights of the Star Cross, why, yourself, Lloyd Royd. Yuhabach looked at Lloyd on the ground and said, in order to distinguish between Lloyd and Roy, Yuhabach specially used R and son to call them two. You acted very well so that no one would perceive my absence. You said I did well. Very honored. Hearing Yuhabach praise himself, Lloyd was very moved and even shed tears. In the Knights of the Star Cross, it is the greatest honor to be appreciated by Yuhabach. But in the next second, Yuhabach raised his finger. Boom. A beam of spirit particles shot out from his fingertips instantly, and Lloyd was directly blown to pieces. Yamamoto Genryuzai next to him frowned, and was a little speechless. What a shameless person, he didn't even let his subordinates go. WW. Your Majesty. Lloyd, who was outside the video, seemed to have lost his soul, sitting on his seat in a daze. I had already fought to the death for Yuhabach and Yamamoto Genryuzai. Why did I end up being treated like this? Yuhabach was the person he admired the most, but he himself died at the hands of the person he admired. However, I finally did something for His Majesty. Lloyd murmured. Look, he didn't praise me, he was a little bewildered and seemed to be brainwashed. However, on the other side of the seat, Ace Tino curled up slightly but kept shaking. He masters fear, and Yhwach is his deepest fear. Afraid that Yuhabach will be angry, afraid that Yuhabach will blame him. What happens when you make a mistake? That's what happened to Lloyd. Lloyd, you still haven't completed the task His Majesty entrusted to you. You can't survive in this state. Your Majesty saved you from suffering and sent you away in advance. You should be grateful to Your Majesty. Lee Jemba Luo looked at Lloyd lightly. Lloyd nodded and said excitedly and gratefully, I understand, Your Majesty has worked hard. Seredi. It's really cruel and ruthless, and you are the ancestor of the Quincy Master. Tōshirō touched his fist, filled with righteous indignation. Of course, Lloyd is not a good person, but the fire of justice in his that wants to obliterate Yhwach is still burning. Leaving aside Lloyd's position, he is an enemy to us, but Yuhabach's actions are too hateful. Rangaku frowned, of course not because he felt sorry for Lloyd, but because he was unhappy with Habach's duplicity. If the Quincy divisions see Yuhabach being so cruel, they probably won't work for him, Shu Bing said. Kira shook her head. Yuhabach is so powerful, even if he knew he was cruel, Quincy wouldn't dare to betray him, right? The video screen continues to play. Yamamoto Motoyanagi glared at Yuhabach angrily. What have you done so far? The fake Yuhabach has been in my sight all the time, so what did the real Yuhabach do during this time? Don't you know what's hidden in the basement of the first team's team building? Yuhabach responded. Suddenly, Yamamoto Genryuzai was startled. Mao's underground prison. Is Yuhabach lost there? Yuhabach didn't hide it, and said bluntly, I went to see Aizen Yu. The screen changed. The Mao underground prison. Suddenly the prison door opened and Habach walked in. In front, Aizen, wrapped in bandages and bound by Kido, is nailed to a prison chair. Is it Yuhabach? Aizen raised his head slowly. There are countless ways to know this name, but I really didn't expect to see him in person. Regardless of why you came here, the unpleasant Ryotsu all over the ground has already explained everything. That's easy. One of the special forces, Aizen Sosuke. Yuhabach looked at Aizen sincerely. Come under my command. King of the Quincy, invite me to join the Invisible Empire? To destroy the Soul Society, we have the same goal at this point. Are the goals the same? Aizen paused for a moment, then looked down at Yuhabach with proud eyes, and said in a deep voice, I refuse. Yuhabach was directly stunned. I don't understand why Aizen refused. I couldn't follow the King of Quincy who followed in the footsteps of Shinigami, Aizen explained. Is this your answer? Yuhabach already understood Aizen's position, turned his head and left. The conversation ends here. Is this going back? Aizen asked. Don't you think my power is a threat? That's why you came here, isn't it? That's right, but you've already merged with Hogyoku. Whether it's killing you or taking you away and banning you, it's too time-consuming. It's a very wise choice. Since we are going on the same path, the shorter the time we spend together, the better, not to mention the opponent who will be eradicated sooner or later. At this point in the video, Espada of Suya Palace was dumbfounded. What's the situation? Why is Lord Aizen in some big prison in Shinigami? Zamari Ruro was furious. According to Aizen's strength, how could someone seal him up? No matter what kind of sealing method, it should be invalid for him. I don't know, no wonder we didn't see Lord Aizen when the Quincy attacked the Soul Society. It turned out that he was imprisoned by Seirei. Araniero Ururi shook his head and sighed. If Aizen hadn't been sealed, Yuhabach would never dare to act recklessly in Hueco Mundo and Soul Society. Do you think that Aizen-sama was sealed by the people of Team Zero when he entered the Palace of the Spirit King after the King of Creation key? Lilinite was puzzled and raised a guess. But don't forget, what kind of bastards are the Zero Division? Although they are better than us, in the eyes of Aizen-sama, they don't even count as farts. How could they be sealed by them? Ruby didn't think so. Master Aizen is immortal, and even Yuhabach is afraid. No matter how he was sealed up, he must have used all his strength, or Master Aizen was captured without a fight. Zamari Ruro doesn't think Aizen will lose, on the throne. Aizen looked at the sealed self in the video, and at the same time felt incredible, but also had some interest. Conceal the self after fusion with Hogyoku. Is that you, Kurosaki Ichigo? He made a simple guess, then smiled. Or what about you, Urahara Kazuki? One of the special forces. Yuhabach, when is it your turn to judge me? Invisible Empire. What kind of power does Aizen possess, that His Majesty wants him to join us? Bambietta was a little surprised. The strength that Aizen showed before is indeed terrifyingly strong. In front of him, many captains were like worthless things, unsightly. But there are also strong people in their star-crossed knights. Aizen after Hogyoku's fusion, is it equal to the pro guards at most? Bambietta murmured. Don't say that, I can't promise to kill Aizen. Zero, ask for flowers. Askin quickly shook his head. Bumby is ignorant, don't brag about yourself. I'm afraid only His Majesty is his opponent. Lee Jaibaluo knew it very well. As for the special combat power, Aizen is much stronger than Zaraki Kenpachi. Even Yamamoto Genryuzai is no match for Aizen. Return to the video screen. It's still raining. Yuhabach looked at Yamamoto Genryuzai's exhausted body and said sarcastically. Why? Because you are fighting counterfeit goods. Have you exhausted your strength, Yamamoto Shigekuni? Crap. Yamamoto roared angrily. Although he used most of his Ryotsu in the previous battle, it is not difficult to use bankai again. Bankai. The flames reignited again. But only in an instant, a faint blue light radiated out, directly absorbing the flames on Yamamoto Genryuzai Mountain. Soon, all the flames were sucked in by the star in Yuhabach's hand. Seeing this, Yamamoto Genryuzai frowned suddenly. Why was bankai taken away? It's not impossible to capture your bankai, it's just that no one can harness your immense power except me. Yuhabach gloated and smiled lightly. So his order to Lloyd is, don't use the star to absorb bankai until he comes back. At this time, the smile on Yuhabach's face became sinister. What should I do? As long as you use your bankai, you can summon the dead skeletons of your subordinates, Yamamoto Genryuzai. Use his own way to treat his own body. It's really insidious, Habach. The picture outside the video frowned tightly. I thought there was no way for Yamamoto Genryuzai's bankai to be taken away. On the contrary, bankai is easy to take, but no one can control it. I don't know if the commander-in-chief can bear it. The burial of 10 trillion deaths. Komamura Sajin swallowed a mouthful of spit. For thousands of years, countless subordinates of Yamamoto Genryuzai died. He might not be able to bear just one Chojiro Sasaki, let alone hundreds of corpses. Return to the video screen. Hearing that Yuhabach was going to counter him with his bankai, Yamamoto Genryuzai was furious instantly, and rushed with Ryujin Jaka. Yuhabach drew his sword unhurriedly and waved lightly. A blue light flickered in the sky for an instant, and then the light gathered into a huge bow and arrow, and a sacred annihilation soared down from the sky. Yamamoto Genryuzai quickly stopped and stood ready. The arrow shot and fell in front of Yuhabach. Yuhabach drew out the arrow, which had already become a spiritual lightsaber. Farewell, Yamamoto Shigekuni. He raised his lightsaber and went under the knife. Yamamoto Genryuzai's waist to shoulder position is already broken. Half of his body fell to the ground, and he died tragically. Yuhabach looked at Yamamoto Genryuzai coldly. Even for all the Shinigami masters, the appearance of death is so sad. Halsward, let's go. Yuhabach turned around and paced away. But at this moment, half of Yamamoto Genryuzai's body stretched out his arm and grabbed Yuhabach's cloak firmly. Seeing this, Yuhabach's eyes sank. Do you mean you won't let me go even if I die? He raised the extinct cross knife. Gode 13 at the beginning of its establishment was a group of killers who hijacked the name of the court and carried out killings in reality. As its commander, Yamamoto Shigekuni, at that time he was a real sword ghost. For the sake of you not being able to understand until your death, let me tell you. He raised his finger, and the multiple divine annihilation shot out. But that's what makes it frightening. Yuhabach shook his head. In order to crusade against the enemy by any means, let alone human beings, they don't even care about the lives of their subordinates, but after exterminating our Quincy. The rain poured on the aftermath of the explosion, as if to extinguish the last flame burning inside Yamamoto Genryuzai. Yuhabach took a few steps back. Although the Soul Society is about to be destroyed from now on, it perished together with us in Gode 13 thousands of years ago. The remains of Yamamoto Genryuzai were buried in the sound of this explosion. In a world of peace, you have more and more things to protect, and you start to show compassion and compassion. For the sake of boring justice and glory, you have degenerated into a group of weak people who hesitate. Bang bang bang. Why don't you heal your left arm? Just order that human girl, it should be cured. I know you don't want to use humans, I know. Even when you were fighting Aizen, you were still worried about killing that human named Kurosaki Ichigo get involved. It's the same now, not just the Soul Society, you even put your life and death on your shoulders, standing before me, and you ended up like this. You have weakened Yamamoto Shigekuni. Extremely boring, Yamamoto heavy country, useless old thing. Do you know why I removed you from the 5 special combat powers? Presumably you will never know. Yuhabach said in a deep voice. Let's end it. Order all members of the Star-Crossed Knights to completely ravage the Soul Society. Great. Raising the knife in his hand, he directly cut off Yamamoto Genryuzai's arm, and then raised his foot to step on the latter's head. Yuhabach clearly felt that the former Yamamoto Genryuzai was not like this. Everything has changed. Chapter 116, the 20th place is announced. Mole City Shuangye is the strongest Kenpachi? Seeking subscription? Under Yuhabach's order, the video ended. Boom! There was a thunderclap in the sky. Immediately afterwards, the rain fell, and it soon became a downpour. Seirei, it's raining. Tōshirō looked out through the conference room window. The rain was rushing down. Gusts of cold wind blew in, blowing everyone's hair and domineering clothes. Captain, was it really still killed by Yuhabach? Sui Feng frowned tightly, as if he had lost a close relative, with endless grief in his expression. She is unwilling to accept this result. Yuhabach, you are a scumbag. Jingle Chunshui couldn't suppress the grief and indignation in his heart, and his thunderous roar reached the ears of everyone in the conference room. If it is said that Yamamoto Genryuzai and Yuhabach fought in a dignified manner. Even if Yamamoto Genryuzai is not Yuhabach's opponent, Jingle Chunshui will not complain if he dies in this situation. However, Yamamoto in the video was first slapped by Lloyd and then taken away by Bankai. The one who died in the end was very frustrated. It ended in a very sad end. As Yamamoto's most proud disciple, Jingle Harumi began to gradually realize that in front of Yuhabach, he seemed to be a small character who was not even as good as dust. Until the end, the captain did not give up on stopping Yuhabach. Joshiro's body softened suddenly, he had lost the perception of time, and fell into endless sadness and stupor. Originally weak, he couldn't accept Yamamoto Genryuzai's death. Jingle Chunshui beside him quickly supported Joshiro. The captain is gone, but we are still here. Whether it is Seirei or Soul Society, we must protect the captain. We shouldn't be sad now. Yes, the captain maintains the stability of the Soul Society so that Shinigami and the souls can live in the Soul Society with peace of mind. He wants us to be happy and laugh. Omeda rubbed his nose and shouted. 363. Should laugh, this is what the captain wants to see most. Laugh at you big-headed ghost. Sui Feng punched Omeda's fat face, and he didn't dodge this time. Yamamoto Genryuzai. Filial piety kills me. Anyway, the captain certainly doesn't want to see all of us so sad, so. Cheer up. Yunohana Retsu's heavy eyes flashed bright. Captain Yunohana is right. Jingle Chunshui nodded. A team house. Ah. Achoo. Yamamoto Genryuzai suddenly sneezed. He was a little baffled, and thought, did someone say something bad about him? Captain, it's raining, be careful of catching cold. Seeing this, Chojiro Sasaki frowned and hurriedly greeted him. What's the matter with the cold? It must be what those boys said in the conference room, I don't know how to reflect on it. Yamamoto Genryuzai stomped his cane, but soon his eyes became serious. Yhwach is stronger than 1,000 years ago. After his death, who can deal with him? Monk, I'm afraid it depends on you, present world. It's raining. Ichigo and others rushed to the teaching building to avoid the rain, but it didn't affect their viewing of the big screens that can be seen everywhere. Does the captain not want to involve me? Ichigo sat on the public chair in the hall of the teaching building, looking lonely, as if covered with a layer of frost. He felt a little guilty about it. If he could arrive at Seirei in time, perhaps Yamamoto Genryuzai would not have ended up like this. Of course, at that time, I was definitely not Yuhabach's opponent. But at least it is possible to change the tragic situation of Yamamoto Genryuzai. Well, he sighed, the feeling of powerlessness was excruciating. That's right, why didn't the captain let me treat him? Inoue or Hime was also very confused. According to his own ability, even though the wounded was Yamamoto Motorizai, it shouldn't be a problem to heal a broken arm. Stop saying things that he doesn't want to involve himself in humans like Kurosaki Ichigo. They bonded with the Soul Society the moment Kurosaki Ichigo entered the Soul Society to rescue Rukia. At this time, Renji's face was cold, but he was silent at the moment, and he still couldn't help but say, even with 2 arms, the captain. I'm afraid he is not an opponent. He knew in his heart that Yamamoto Genryuzai's failure did not lie in the broken arm. But the opponent is too strong. Yuhabach was a bloodthirsty demon thousands of years ago. Also, the original Godei 13 was a killer group, something Renji didn't know about, and maybe few people would have known had it not been mentioned by Yuhabach. Today's Godei 13 has become the real guardian to protect the Soul Society in the present world, and Yamamoto Genryuzai no longer has the hostility of 1,000 years ago. On the other hand, Yuhabach, after being resurrected, used holy to restore his strength, and he was able to deal with his subordinates. His temperament has not changed from the beginning to the end. It was a demon soaked in blood all the time, and Yamamoto Genryuzai had already shed his evil horns. The throne of the Void Knight Palace. Aizen's calm expression gradually became a little gloomy. Regarding the death of Yamamoto Genryuzai, he was not happy, let alone sad. Maybe it's a sense of separation after being familiar with it after staying in Soul Society for so many years. Captain, why did you stop me then, otherwise things wouldn't have turned out like this. Aizen shook his head slightly, since he was imprisoned in the infernal hell, it must have something to do with Yamamoto Genryuzai. In other words, among the people involved in stopping him, Yamamoto Genryuzai is indispensable. Now, Yamamoto ended up being beheaded by Yuhabach. What a pity. The Invisible Empire, the Palace of Ice. The strongest Shinigami, was killed by His Majesty just like that? Massacre was stunned for a moment. How sloppy. Although the bankai of Yamamoto Genryuzai was taken away, there must be other moves that can be used, right? For example, white hits, fences and the like. For a Quincy of Yuhabach's level, although these moves cannot kill, they must be tried. As a result, nothing was used, and Yuhabach directly killed him in seconds. You see, this is His Majesty's strength. The strongest Shinigami is just an ant. If you are pinched by Your Majesty, you will die. Gerald's mouth was raised, full of pride. Yamamoto Genryuzai is already dead, what are the rest of you guys fighting against us? Giselle looked a little arrogant. Want to fight the Invisible Empire? There are no doors? Lloyd also played a vital role in this battle. Roy directly praised our Lloyd. Yhwach didn't take him seriously, as he was a big brother, he must care about his emotions. Ma CK laughed stupidly. Yes, everything you do for His Majesty is a hero's work. Hey, Lloyd, if you imitate Yamamoto Genryuzai, will you be able to draw with him? Bambietta was a little surprised and raised a whimsical idea. Lloyd shook his head, Your Majesty, come on, I can't control Yamamoto Genryuzai's bankai power, even if the body is Yamamoto Genryuzai, I can't use it. Shout, what a weak chicken, no wonder it's only ranked 21st. Bambietta was uninterested and complained with his hands. On the throne, Yhwach looked calm and seemed composed. Compared with when he was young, his detached composure after experiencing the vicissitudes of life is indeed different. But the ferocious energy in his heart has not washed away with the years. Yamamoto Shigekuni, you are getting old, I can no longer see the momentum you had when you were young, so the destruction of the Soul Society is bound to happen. At this time, the inventory of the 21st Lloyd Roy is over. With his name engraved on the gold list, next is the list of the top 20 in the combat power list. 20 is a watershed. There have been many strong men before, but after that, those within 20 are definitely the most powerful existences in the 3 realms. However, the 20th name has already appeared on the big screen. The 20th place in the combat power list, Mole City Shuangye. Name: Mole City Shuangye Faction. Soul Society Identity, Shinigami. Ability: Bankai IX, 90 Defense, 94 Speed, 92, 95. Number 96 Keto, 96 Ryotsu, 96 1,100,000. When this name appeared, countless people fell into confusion. Because the name is too unfamiliar, present world. Who is Mole Chengshuang? Kurosaki Ichigo looked at Abarai Renji beside him, and asked doubtfully. As the vice captain of Seirei, Renji should know more. Renji shook his head, expressing that he didn't know. Idiot, isn't Modoshiso your Seirei's Shinigami? Why don't you know him? Ichigo is still a little curious. Why is Mojo Soya's identity a Shinigami, and why is his power Soul Society? Are you pretending to be full of shit? Renji stared at Ichigo with wide eyes. Who knows what period this guy is from? Anyway, I have never heard of the name Mojo Soya. Besides, even at the same time as him, Seirei has so many Shinigami, it's normal not to know each other. Ichigo pouted. I'm only pretending to be you. Watching the two bickering, Inoue or Hime smiled awkwardly, and the sense of the picture suddenly came to life. Lloyd's combat power is only 980,000. It stands to reason that Mo Chengshuang, who is ahead of him, should be a million or a million, but he went straight to 1.1 million. Sato was shocked. This gap is too big. Look at this guy's attribute panel. Kurosaki Ichigo stopped making noise and frowned tightly. The attack attribute is only 90 points. Ranked 20th, it is indeed a bit stretched. Even many people on the list in their 20s have an attack of more than 90. But other attributes, viz. shocked them severely. In addition to the low attack, the defense is 94, which is very outstanding, but the vitality, Kido and Ryotsu. Renji swallowed deeply. These three items are as high as 96 points. Among all the people counted before, no one's attributes surpassed 96. As a result, Mole City Shuang also directly appeared 3. It's so terrifying. What is the identity of this Mole City Shuangye? Ichigo frowned tightly. If it wasn't for the Seirei forces, he should be out of the control of Seirei just like Hiriko Shinji. Is it a traitor? Have you noticed that the people counted on the combat power list are all people who are still alive so far? Renji's eyes lit up suddenly. He guessed that even if there are stronger players than those on the list, if they are dead, they will not be counted. Combined with the previous inventory list, it does meet this condition. Ichigo nodded, feeling that what Renji said made sense. In other words, Mo Chengshuang is still alive. Bingo. Renji winked at Ichigo. Seirei. Who is this Mole City Kenpachi? Tōshirō was confused. As the captain, let alone recognize all the Shinigami in Seirei. But the strong ones who can rank in the top 20 on the combat power list must be at least the level of the chief officer or vice captain. But he had never heard of the name. I don't know, Captain, have you heard of it? Omeda looked at Sui Feng suspiciously. Sui Feng didn't hit him this time, but shook his head. I don't know. Even Captain Sui Feng doesn't know. What is this guy's background? Komamura Sajin frowned. Could it be that Shindo is someone who is not loyal to Seirei like Aizen? He also noticed the division of power in Mole City Shuangye. Muchung Shuangya, the 8th generation Kenpachi. Jingle Chunshui stroked the bamboo hat, his eyes were as sharp as a falcon. Jashiro nodded, and echoed. Yeah, Zhaochung Kenpachi. Among the Shinigami present, Jingle Shunsui, Jashiro and Yunohana Retsu knew the details of Kenpachi. Captain Jashiro, maybe you can't call him Kenpachi Mole City. Yunohana Retsu smiled softly. As a first-generation Kenpachi, she takes the Kenpachi title very seriously. For Shuangye Mochung, the name of Kenpachi no longer belongs to him. Jashiro nodded with a smile. Yes, that's right, Captain Yunohana said yes. Looking at the three people talking happily, the rest of them all frowned, their minds were confused. Kenpachi? Captain Jingle, you said Mojo is also the 8th generation Kenpachi? Madarame Makaku anxiously wants to know the situation of Soya Mojo. Because he bears the name of Kenpachi, he must belong to the 11th team. Now that he is the chairman of the 11th team, he must find out. 8 generations of Kenpachi. No wonder we don't know each other. It turned out to be the former Kenpachi, so where is he now? It is mentioned on the property panel that he belongs to the Soul Society, not Seirei, expressed doubts. Inseparable. Jingle Chunshui's eyes froze. Hearing this place, everyone was shocked. They only know that it is the bottom floor of the underground prison, and in the scene shown in the video just now, Aizen is imprisoned in wujian. Could it be that Mojo Shuangya and Aizen are strong at the same level? The attribute is too exaggerated, and the combat power is as high as 1.1 million. No wonder he can enter the world. Tōshirō swallowed a mouthful of spit, and cold sweat began to ooze from his face. Actually, I don't know the ability of Mochung Shuangye either. A look of indifference flashed across Jingle Chunshui's eyes, and at that time, Mo Chengshuang surrendered to room 46, that's why he was imprisoned in the infernal hell. He never clearly demonstrated his ability. Not only Jingle, but Jashiro and Yunohana Retsu also don't know about 5.0. A team house. Is that you, Mole City Shuangya? Yamamoto Genryuzai showed a vigilant look. Of course, he didn't know the specific ability of Mochung Shuangye, but the idea he proposed at the beginning was terrible. Thinking about it now, Yamamoto Genryuzai felt chills down his spine. Captain, Do you want me to check wujian? Chojiro Sasaki hurriedly said when he saw Yamamoto Genryuzai's vigilant look. Yamamoto Genryuzai shook his head. Mole Chengshuang was also sentenced to 19,200 years in prison, and he also surrendered himself. It is more difficult to escape from the endless hell than to ascend to the sky. Urahara store. It turned out to be Yatsushiro Kenpachi. Urahara Kazuki stroked his chin, frowning, as if recalling something. Shop manager, do you know Mochung Shuangye? Sumuya Rain looked at Kazuki with melancholy eyes. Kazuki nodded. By chance, Urahara Kazuki did know something about Mojo Shuangya. More than 100 years ago, when Kazuki succeeded in researching the transformation of the divine body, Zanpakuto Yulu Tuolyu of Mochung Shuangya took this opportunity to manifest. He also told Kazuki and Yi-san about his abilities and some things about Mochung Shuangye. I didn't expect that Mochung Shuang also entered the top 20. Yoruichi shook his head and sighed. Infernal hell. A man in a white robe with an ancient hairstyle looked at the big screen with a meaningful smile. His ability is very special, although he can't escape from the inexhaustible, he can fuse his spirit sun with the entire Soul Society, so even if he is imprisoned in the inexhaustible, what happened to the Soul Society is well known. Including Kurosaki Ichigo coming to Soul Society to rescue Rukia Kuchiki, Aizen defecting Soul Society into Hueco Mundo. At this time, Mojo Soya showed a flattered expression on his face, and murmured. Aizen Sosuke, I don't know how many years you have been imprisoned, but finally someone can talk to me. Chapter 117. Instant kill 7th generation Kenpachi, Seirei panicked, seeking subscription. At this time, the screen has already started playing on the big screen. Soul Society 250 years ago, Rukongai suburb. A man dressed as the captain of the 11th team, Howry, with sharp eyes like a beast and messy hair like weeds, led a group of soldiers to fight here. It was originally a battle with an ordinary ghost, but on the way of the battle, Manos Grandes suddenly appeared. Although it is Killian, it is also a dangerous existence. Captain, what's the matter? The soldiers were a little flustered and looked at each other in blank dismay. Kenpachi smiled softly, and immediately took out Zanpakuto and slashed at Manos Grande. With the knife in his hand, and with a flash of light from the knife, Killian was cut in two, and disappeared into black smoke. Is that Mojo City Shuangya? Tōshirō outside the video frowned, a little curious. This Shinigami wears Howry, the captain of the 11th team, and must be the captain with the name of Kenpachi. He just didn't expect that this seemingly crude man would be so easygoing. It doesn't suit his temperament at all. Captain, this look fits Kenpachi's temperament, doesn't it? Rangaku thinks that the Kenpachi in the video is very similar to Zaraki Kenpachi in appearance. Doesn't look like a weakling. Jingle Chunshui shook his head, and said with a trace of regret in his expression. No, this person is Kenpachi, 7th generation Kenpachi. Kenpachi is different from other Kenpachi. Although he looks haughty, he is not domineering at all. On the contrary, he is humble and polite. Therefore, during his term of office, Kenpachi was very respected. Even an old fritter like Jingle trusts him. 7th generation Kenpachi? Shu Bing frowned slightly, and immediately said. The captain of this Kenpachi, Howry, is very special, and must be very powerful. The word, 11, on the Howry behind him is like the trace of a knife cut, far more than the number hockey on the back of other Captain Howry. Kira looked at Shubing, and then at Zaraki Kenpachi. Can you become a Kenpachi? Can there be weak ones? Manos Grande is even one knife, so strong as an exaggeration. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled. When Kenpachi was in office, he did not enter Seirei. Of course, being a Kenpachi, he knows some things about previous Kenpachi. At this moment, he felt very happy to see this 7th generation Kenpachi with his own eyes, and really wanted to fight with him. Let's see who is more suitable for this title as Kenpachi. The video continues to play. After beheading Jillian, Kenpachi soon felt the stronger Ryotsu in the crack in the sky. He frowned, clenched Zanpakuto tightly, and shouted, Guys inside, come out. As soon as the words fell, countless white filaments flew out of the black cavity. These filaments weave into a huge web as they fall in midair. Seeing this, Kenpachi rushed Shunpo away. Could it be that you want to catch me in the black cavity? Looking at the way the spider webs attacked, he seemed to understand. The moment the spider web fell, Kenpachi grabbed the spider web, but there was also a spider silk that spread to the black cavity connecting the spider web. Katsuya Shiki Kenpachi turns his palm and wraps the spider silk around his hand, like a tug of war. Give it a shot. It actually pulled out a white spider like intermediate Manos Grande from the black cavity. Ejuka's already possessed self-awareness, and even had the strength of a captain. Of course, the comparison is with a captain like Muguruma Kensai. After Ejuka's is pulled out, fight Kenpachi for a few rounds. But Takuya Shiki did not feel any hostility or emotion on him at all. He put away the Zanpakuto, and said in a deep voice, I don't have time to spare and work hard to chop a puppet. Immediately afterwards, he jumped to Ejuka's side, grabbed a spider leg and threw it back into the black cavity. Seeing this battle process, everyone outside the video was dumbfounded. This is Ejuka's. Kenpachi Shoyoshiki fought so easily? Komamura Sajin's eyes widened. Although Ijuka's is only an intermediate Manos Grande, his combat effectiveness should not be underestimated. You know, there are also many Arankars in Espada that are Ijuka's level. As the captain of the 7th Division, Komamura Sajin is sure that he can kill an Ijuka's, but he is definitely not as comfortable as Kenpachi. Madarei Mikaku smiled and shook his head. Captain Komamura, he was also the captain of the 11th team, 11. And he found that there was some difference between Kyoshiki Kenpachi and Zaraki Kenpachi when it came to fighting. Zaraki Kenpachi just wants to have fun in the fight, he doesn't care if you have emotions or not, as long as you get stronger, he will get stronger. On the other hand, Kenpachi, facing the Ijukas just now, felt that the other party had no emotion and hostility, and directly threw him back into the black cavity. Don't tell me, this Kenpachi has quite a personality. Rukia smiled slightly, a little appreciative of Yoshiki Kenpachi's approach. Why, you can't understand me. Zaraki Kenpachi glanced at Rukia with a terrifying look. Don't say it's Rukia, we don't like you. Byakuya Kuchiki took the words, and West Rukia made a relief. Kenpachi grinned. Okay, Byakuya Kuchiki, want to fight straight up. Byakuya was very calm, and said slowly, which ear of yours heard me say that you want to fight? Return to the video screen. After Kenpachi threw it back to the spider, his eyes still fell on the black cavity. The Ijuka's just now was just a small character, but the superior Manos Grande hiding in the depths of the black cavity made him really interested. He jumped up, wanting to enter the black cavity to fight Vasto Lord hiding in the dark, but suddenly, the black cavity closed. Hateful. Watching the cracks disappearing in the sky, Soyoshiki Kenpachi wondered. I had no choice but to come down reluctantly to clean up the other Shaoshu. Soon, the 11th team won a big victory. The 8th and 4th squads who came to support did not make any moves at all, and the crowd was defeated. Captain Kiyoshiki is so brave, I don't need to take action at all. Jingle Chunshui watched a play on the sidelines, but it was not in vain. Kenpachi smiled. Captain Jingle is awesome. This battle can be regarded as a complete victory. Captain Jingle and Captain Unikana, don't come here in vain. We are going to drink to celebrate, you should come too. There's something else to do in a while. Jingle Chunshui casually evaded it, and it would be too embarrassing for him to agree directly. When Kenpachi saw Jingle Chunsui's fake appearance, he immediately understood what it meant. Usually you are lazy, what can you do now? He patted his chest and said decisively. Don't worry, I'll treat you. Oh, Captain Kiyoshiki is too polite, so I'd rather be obedient than respectful. Jingle Chunshui's mouth drew a beautiful arc. Yunohana Retsu was not as cheeky as Jingle, she declined and left. Captain, I'm too embarrassed to expose you. Shishu outside the video cast a cold glance at Jingle Chunshui. It seems that he hasn't changed at all over the years. Jingle Chunshui pursed his lips, turned his eyes to the side, and said casually, the captain of the family, please invite me to drink, I can't refuse, how rude. Jashiro shook his head and suppressed a smile, almost spit out his saliva. Jingle, just pretend, you're just drunk. That means Kenpachi didn't catch that Vasto Lord. Komamura Sajin looked solemn, and was puzzled by the sudden disappearance of the black cavity. Shooting Field also nodded. A Manos Grande like Vasto Lord is stronger than the captain. If this attack on the Soul Society is purposeful, there is no reason to run away. Or is Kenpachi stronger than Manos Grande like Vasto Lord? Jingle Chunshui shook his head. It had been so long, he had forgotten the specific details, and there were no Shinigami casualties at that time, so he didn't take it seriously. There was a confident smile on his face. Maybe that Vasto Lord was scared when he saw me and Captain Yunohana rushing. Captain, you really know how to put gold on your face. Shishu twitched. Yunohana Retsu looked calm. According to Tsukiyashiki's strength, it is not a problem to deal with a Vasto Lord. As a first-generation Kenpachi, although she cannot interfere with the selection of Kenpachi, she knows each generation of Kenpachi very well. Katetsu Izan nodded in agreement. Well, looking at Kenpachi's appearance, it's very powerful. The video screen is still playing, at the reception. The Shinigami discussed about Kenpachi's heroic appearance just now. Captain Jingle, can you deal with this superior Manos Grande Vasto Lord? Kenpachi asked Jingle Harasui curiously. Jingle Chunshui was flirting with the female players on the side, and he was slightly taken aback when he heard Yoshiki Kenpachi's voice. Immediately, he handed the wine glass to the female team members, and said lazily, we don't know much about the superior Manos Grande at all. Moreover, due to the different characteristics of each person, someone can easily defeat the superior Manos Grande, but may also lose to the subordinate Manos Grande. Isn't that always the case with Shinigami and Hollow battles? This sentence is just right, and it is a good response to Kenpachi's question. At this time, a member of the team tentatively asked Kenpachi, I heard that Team Zero invited the captain to come over. Is this true? Suniyashiki was also unambiguous, and smiled directly. Yes, but I refused. Until someone inherits the name of Kenpachi, I have to stay in Seirei. The name of Kenpachi is also very important to Kayashiki. He didn't want to see the name of Kenpachi handed over to a Shinigami who didn't deserve it. The members of the 11th team immediately felt relieved when they heard Kayashiki's answer, and silently drank the wine in their glasses. In their hearts, only Captain Kiyashiki is worthy of the strongest Shinigami. What? Kenpachi was invited by Team Zero? Rukia outside the video widened his eyes in disbelief. You must know that those who can go to the Lingwang Palace are all stronger than the captain, and it is even more difficult to be selected by the Lingwang. If they become the Zero team, then their own strength will definitely be improved to a higher level. Generally speaking, the captains who are looking for a strong one yearn for the Soul King Palace, but Kiyashiki directly refuses. The reason is that he has to wait for someone who can inherit the name of Kenpachi to appear. It can only be said that he is not a 7th generation Kenpachi. This Takuyashiki seems quite suitable to be Kenpachi. Byakuya Kuchiki thinks that with such boldness, no matter how many teams he serves as the captain, he can win the hearts of the people. Zaraki Kenpachi snorted coldly. Are you saying that I am not suitable to be Kenpachi? I didn't say anything. You can't blame others if you insist on thinking this way. Byakuya looked calm and didn't want to conflict with Kenpachi. A team house. Kayashiki. What a pity. Yamamoto Genryuzai frowned tightly, and a trace of pity flashed in his eyes. Yamamoto always thought that he could be the pillar of Seirei besides himself. Until that person shows up. Return to the video screen. Excuse me, Kenpachi, can I take a step to speak? A strange and quiet voice broke the happy atmosphere of the reception. The voice came from a man dressed as an aristocrat standing outside the door. Who is this man? What do you want our captain to do? The soldiers looked at the nobleman and discussed in a low voice. Suniyashiki was also very curious, and asked, It's the young master of the nobleman. What's the matter here? If you want to drink, I can share it with you. However, at this time, a woman blindfolded by a black broadband came behind Mochung Shuangye. The woman spoke incoherently about the deeds of Kayashiki, and finally laughed hysterically. Everyone was a little confused. Who are these two inexplicable guys? They actually know the deeds of Captain Tsukiyashiki? And the woman also has a playful and mocking meaning. Jingle Chunshui's expression also became a little gloomy. Before the Shinigami could open their mouths, Mo Chengshuang also took the lead to stop the woman with a little irritability. Immediately, he looked at Kenpachi and asked, I heard that as long as you kill you in front of 200 soldiers, that person can become the captain of the 11th team and get the title of Kenpachi, right? Hearing this, I became interested in the house. I refused the invitation of Team Zero because I wanted to find someone who would inherit the name of Kenpachi. Turns out now there's actually a guy who wants the title of Kenpachi. He drank the wine in his glass, stood up and said excitedly, You were right. Mole Chengshuang also remained indifferent, directly launching a challenge. Then let's have a fight now, shall we compete? Is this aristocratic man Oedo Soya Mojo? Tōshirō outside the video raised his interest. A man with phoenix eyes and a fair face looks very weak, but he doesn't look like Kenpachi at all. Komamura Sajin also couldn't believe it. Don't talk about this guy, he can kill Kenpachi, it doesn't look like level. And, who is that woman behind him? Everyone's eyes focused on Jingle Chunshui. Jingle Chunshui shook his baggy coat and said in a deep voice. That's right, that person is Mochung Shuangye, but I don't know who that woman is. But he can roughly guess that the woman is related to Zanpakuto in Shuangye, Mochung City. Nani, 8 generations of Kenpachi actually look like this. It's a bit different from what I imagined. Rangaku took a breath in surprise, and then glanced at Zaraki Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Rangaku coldly, as if saying that you think all Kenpachi are like me hockey. The video continues to play. Hearing that Mojojo was also going to challenge Kenpachi, the Shinigami immediately exploded. I thought to myself that this noble young master has something wrong with his mind. Leaving aside your strength, if you want to challenge Kenpachi, you won't even have any weapons, right? Hands are empty, not even Zanpakuto. Headshot? Jingle Chunshui on the side had been observing Mochung Shuangye, and felt a little surprised. I just need to kill you in front of your team members, and I can become the captain of the 11th team and inherit the name of Kenpachi, right? Kiyashiki nodded, agreeing to come down to the challenge of siege. And it is still a big event to compete for the captain's position. Everyone present, including Jingle Chunshui, were dumbfounded. Before the duel started, Mole Chengshuang also confirmed again. Before he even made any movements, he lost consciousness and fell to the ground with a plop, and the ground quickly turned into a bloody beach. After confirming that it was correct, Mo Chengshuang also lowered his head slightly and said quietly, Okay, then you won't die in vain. Sui Feng swallowed fearfully. Captain Jingle, you were so lucky. Be careful, Captain Tsuruyashiki, to take someone's life without warning? Everyone came to the open place. Besides the Shinigami of the 11th team, there were also some members of the 8th team. The high-intensity Kido is not to be underestimated in its lethality. Although he doesn't carry Zanpakuto, maybe the other party is better at using Kido. As the captain of the 8th division, he has no reason to intervene in the affairs of the 11th division. Jingle Harunui cautiously reminded Kiyashiki. That's right, just kill me in front of them. Suniyashiki glanced around the team members. This is the usual rule for selecting Kenpachi, not to mention the members of the 11th team. Even the Shinigami of other teams know. What's going on? Mo Chengshuang has no sign of making a move at all. Why is the battle over? Tōshiro's pupils shrank suddenly outside the video, and this result was too unexpected. The moment the voice fell, countless cracks burst out from Tsurugashiki's body, which sprayed out like a fountain. Chapter 118. The person who lifted the seal of Aizen was the Mole City Kenpachi, seeking subscription. What is good luck? Mole City Shuang Yi obviously didn't target Jingle Chunshui. Jingle Chunshui shook his head helplessly. He remembered the battle clearly, and didn't even know what happened at the time. Kenpachi died straight away, but he knew that if Kenpachi used bankai directly, he wouldn't be killed inexplicably. Moreover, the Zanpakudo Hungry Corridor of Katsuyashiki is a biology department, and bankai will have a giant jaw with a radius of several souls on the ground. Except for Katsuyashiki, no matter whether it is a living thing or a non-biological thing, no matter the enemy or its own people, everything within this range be devoured, torn, and crushed by it all. He can die with Mo Chengshuang, but there are 200 members of the 11th squad around him. According to his temperament, it is absolutely impossible to release bankai. Could it be that Mikoto Mojo made a move in advance, in the wine that Kenpachi drank? Komamura Sasuke guessed, it is impossible to die for no reason. Shuhei also nodded in agreement. It must have been tampered with, otherwise, the battle has just begun. How could Yoshiki Kenpachi have scars all over his body? Impossible. If it was drugged in the wine, then Captain Jingle drank it too. Why is he fine? Don't talk about luck. Tōshirō denied this point of view. And how can there be medicine that can make a person's whole body rupture and die? Not even Kurotsuchi Mayuri could have developed such a poison. The specific reason, I really don't know. Jingle Chunshui can guarantee that there is no problem with the drinks. Maybe it has something to do with Mo Chengshuang's ability. He didn't have much contact with Mo Chengshuang, so he didn't know the reason. Void Night Palace. What the hell kind of ability is that? It can kill the other party out of thin air. Couldn't Mo Chengshuang be a villain who can be mysterious? Yami guessed that the nobleman in the video was Mo Chengshuang. He didn't understand what happened in the battle. Even if you cast bankai, there should be a trigger time. If you die for no reason, what kind of battle is this? Noitra shook his head fiercely with a disappointed face. I thought I could appreciate the top-level battle between Kenpachi, but this is the result? However, at this time, Zael Aporo, who was sitting aside, showed a faint smile. He had witnessed this battle with his own eyes 100 years ago. Although others were in Hueco Mundo at the time, they watched everything with a miniature bug with surveillance functions. As the original Espada, he originally wanted to study Takuyashiki, but he was killed by Mole City Soya. Later, he analyzed the battle by checking the information recorded by the spirit insects, but so far, he has not researched how Chao Fengfu was killed by Mo Chengshuang. What a mysterious guy, it's better not to fight him, in case he gets killed out of nowhere, Lilonite said. Stark gave her a blank look. Idiot, if you don't provoke him, why would he kill you? Return to the video screen. Inside the Technology Development Bureau of the Soul Society. The researchers are working a bit nervously, because they just discovered hundreds of Arancars in the Lingbo Observator, which appeared in Karakura town without any rules. But not long after, the group of Arancar disappeared without a trace. In such a rare situation, Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who is the head of the Technology Development Bureau, happens to be out of office. He was called away by Room 46, before Kurosaki Ichigo invaded Seirei, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri will be in court for the case that the second squad member was used as a human bomber. But those old guys in Room 46 don't care about right or wrong or ethics at all. I just want to sell Kurotsuchi Mayuri a favor by this matter. After all, Kurotsuchi Mayuri is a dangerous person, and in the 46 rooms that focus on self-interest everywhere, he is most afraid of this kind of person, and selling favors is good for both parties. Even if Captain Ni is sentenced to be imprisoned in Wujian, he will be happy because he can study his inmates. Ah Jin complained. Bulbulus nodded. If you say that, the captain can't wait to enter Wujian. You two guys, speak ill of me while I'm not around. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who was outside the video, turned his head and gave Ah Jin and Bulbulus a hard look. However, it can be seen from the video that this period should be the future. Ah Jin and Bulbulus smiled awkwardly. Captain, just kidding, just kidding. Why did Arankar suddenly appear in Karakura town and then disappear? Komamura Sajin was puzzled. If it's attacking the world, it's impossible to just show up and leave. Tōshirō is also puzzled. In the period in the picture, Aizen has been imprisoned in Wujian. Hueco Mundo may have no leader? The former leader of Hueco Mundo was Aizen, and Baragan, the king of the virtual circle, is also dead. Isn't the future Hueco Mundo unruled and chaotic? Captain, no matter what period it is, Hueco Mundo cannot be without a leader, it's just a matter of time, Nan said. The king of Hueco Mundo will definitely appear, but in a short time, it is unlikely. Vice Captain Matsumoto is right, Aizen is imprisoned, Hueco Mundo will fall into chaos, but Hueco Mundo is Hueco Mundo. We can't control that much, as long as there are ghosts entering the world, we just need to erase them. Komamura Sajin is starlight flashed in his eyes, and he said firmly. The video continues to play. Suddenly, the Ryatsu observer blared its siren. The relaxed atmosphere of the players was instantly broken. The display seemed to be malfunctioning, and Arankar's information was detected everywhere in the Soul Society. However, inside the Soul Society, a group of Arankar in the form of children came outside the Seireii gate. Madarei Makaku, Yumi and others appeared to intercept the accident. You are not allowed to enter Seireii. Gongshin saw that Elvihai was a group of brats, and did not show too much malice, but calmly said, "If you want to break in, I can only destroy you." Arankar didn't care at all about the already somewhat murderous relative Gong. Instead he innocently pointed in Seireii's direction and asked, "Then why is that sister Arankar inside?" The filaments stretched in. Gongshin and Yijiao turned their heads to look around, but didn't find anything unusual and didn't understand what the group of children meant. Not only the two, but everyone in the Technology Development Bureau also couldn't figure out the purpose of this group of Arankars. It's a headache that the captain is not on duty. The bureau member complained, but the action of typing on the keyboard did not slow down at all, and he carefully analyzed various data. But suddenly, the air in the bureau gradually cooled down, and the bureau members stopped their work one by one. A mighty Arankar Ryotsu has appeared in Seireii. A bureau member yelled violently, "The location! The location is in this monitoring room." At the same time, a red-haired man was already sitting on the director's seat, and said with a frivolous face, "So the guy who killed me is the director here. This man looks like the eighth blade of Espada, Zauoro. Seireii. Why is there this guy again?" Kurotsuchi Mayuri was a little confused. Just now Zauoro also said that he was killed by the director of the Technology Development Bureau. Isn't it just killed by him? Why does it still appear in the video? Zauoro ran out of hell when he was reviewing Jashiro, and was harpooned back by Pisces. The result is showing up again now. "Captain Jashiro, you really didn't know him before?" Toshirō looked at Jashiro curiously. Jashiro shook his head. "Before the stocktaking started, I really didn't know each other." He wondered why Toshirō said he met Zauoro because of hell. He also admitted that he was killed. Could it be that he crawled out of hell? Shubing looked around, without a clue, and could only guess wildly. "Don't be stupid, Vice Captain Hisagi. Have you forgotten how he was stabbed by Captain Jashiro's Pisces carp? And his appearance is different from the one he emerged from hell." Kira directly denied this view. "Jashiro. Why can't I leave Pisces and carp at every word? Void Knight Palace. What's going on? Zauoro, can you be resurrected?" Grimjow was amazed. It was acceptable to go to hell after death. Sudden resurrection, what the hell? Zauoro didn't speak. He was also a little depressed. First hell, and then appearing in the Technology Development Bureau, they're all puzzles, the kind that cannot be solved. He even wanted to die now to see what happened, return to the video screen. Seeing this familiar and unfamiliar man, the bureau members showed shocked expressions. "Isn't this the specimen soaked in the antiseptic solution in Kankuri?" a bureau member said suddenly. Hearing this, Zauoro had a ferocious smile on his face, and shouted, "Haha, specimen. I did lose to him, but I didn't expect my body to become the object of research." Among the bureau members present, Ah-jin had the deepest impression on Zauoro and recognized his identity. Zauoro got up from his seat, intending to look at his specimens. Although the bureau members wanted to stop Zauoro, they were not fighting material at all, and they couldn't stop it at all. Arriving at the warehouse location, Zauoro gathered a false bullet at his fingertips. After the door was blasted open, the specimen soaked in the fluorescent liquid came into view. Looking at his specimen, he showed a sinister smile. "Sure enough, like the information sent back by the spirit insect, I didn't even find out that I died. The expression is really like a fool." After complaining about the specimen, he put his hand into the water tank, looked at the surviving bureau members and said, "Be happy, you will see the great moment of the fusion of soul and body." But soon, Zauoro had a displeased look on his face. "What did Kurotsuchi Mayuri do to my body?" He realized something was wrong with his body. But at this time, he noticed Zaraki Kenpachi's Ryotsu who came because of the explosion. "Is it the guy who defeated Neutra and Yami? I don't want to compete with the beast in my current state." After Zauoro dropped a disgusted expression, he disappeared out of thin air along with the specimen as if it had melted. "What? I was killed by Zaraki Kenpachi?" Neutra's pupils exploded outside the video. "But I did learn this information from Zauoro, and there should be no mistake. Even if you kill Yami, you even lost yourself? HMPH, isn't this a normal thing? Zaraki Kenpachi is a special combat power, you are a fart." Grimjow sneered at this. "Shout, how amazing is the special combat power? When Zaraki Kenpachi fought with me, he must have used Shikai, and I was defeated." Neutra said confidently that he is also a type of fighter who gets stronger with each battle. Even if killed, Zaraki Kenpachi must have been severely injured. "Zauoro, your appearance is really strange." Hurley Bell looked directly at Zauoro as if he didn't see Grimjow and Neutra. Zauoro's originally confused face suddenly disappeared at this moment. What replaced it was the ecstasy of enlightenment. Not weird at all. He's also a scientist, just as crazy as Kurotsuchi Mayuri. A second self appeared, not the so-called soul. It's a clone. For him, it is not difficult to research out the clone body, and it is almost certain that he will fall into hell in the future. But falling into hell does not mean falling into hell immediately after death. There are many things to do before that. The rest of Espada was surprised to see Zauoro laugh wildly. I wondered if this guy was scared silly by the two of his own affairs? Sereti. Backquote, it's really weird, this Zauoro always feels a little strange. What other information is sent back by the spirit insects? What is he studying? Jashiro scratched his head, maybe because hell, he had a special interest in Zauoro. Everyone shook their heads to express their ignorance. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, on the other hand, was vicious, and cursed angrily. You dog, you actually injured my bureau member and snatched away my experimental specimens, you really deserve to die. Captain Nirvana, that's his own corpse, why don't you let him take it away? Komamura Sajin smiled gloatingly. Kurotsuchi Mayuri glared at Komamura Sajin, then fell into deep thought. The appearance of two Zauoro is strange enough, why can they disappear out of thin air with the specimen? The video continues to play. Kurotsuchi Mayuri returned to the Development Bureau due to unexpected events. Looking at the dilapidated Development Bureau, he was furious. I'm sorry Director, with our ability, we can only keep the backup data storage room at best. BWGB, B. The injured Ajin didn't make excuses, and directly took the responsibility on himself. Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't care about the situation of the Bureau members, but said urgently, instead of saying some meaningless apologies, why don't you tell me what happened quickly? Ajin reported to Kurotsuchi Mayuri all the events of meeting Zauoro. Disappeared inexplicably. Kurotsuchi Mayuri was suddenly intrigued, he had previously tracked down an Arrancar woman with similar melding abilities. Are the two connected? According to the information we have obtained before, we can get a deduction. Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned softly. However, I hope this deduction is wrong. The screen changed. Mo Chengshuang, who was locked in wujian, also had a gleam in his eyes. He noticed that negation thread that went deep into Sereti before it made a big fuss in Soul Society. He also already knew everything that happened to the Technical Development Bureau, Wang Liaohao, just now. In the 8th prison, there is only darkness. To be precise, this is a space that even darkness cannot specifically identify. However, on the other side, Aizen, who is also in wujian, is in a much worse situation than Mochung Shuangya. The body is sealed very firmly, the hands, feet, mouth, eyes and ears are sealed so airtight, and even the touch of the skin is sealed by Bakudo. But suddenly, the seals wrapped around Aizen's mouth, left eye and left ear were released. After liberating part of the seal, Aizen saw a soft light in the darkness. This kind of scene is almost impossible to happen in wujian. Aizen was not surprised at all, very calm, showing a gentle smile and said, isn't this the old man who was tortured here? It should be an honor to witness your honor. How should I call you? The real name Mojo Soya, or the title of the strongest Shinigami to show respect? Maybe not many people care about who is imprisoned in wujian, but Aizen clearly knows that Mochung Shuangya is among them. Sereti. Jingle Chunshui saw that Aizen's seal had been released in 3 places, his body shook instantly, and the corners of his mouth twitched unconsciously. The power of Aizen with Hogyoku goes without saying. Although it is not clear how Aizen was sealed, but for such an extremely dangerous character, the seal is definitely the strongest. Mochung Shuangya actually easily lifted the 3 seals? And he can move freely in the infernal space. Why can't even wujian restrain Mochung Shuangya? Tōshirō frowned tightly. Whether it was the battle situation of 7th generation Kenpachi in the instant before, or the free movement in wujian, all refreshed his 3 views. Even the seal of Aizen can be easily released. What kind of monster is this? The strongest Shinigami. I can hear the words, strongest Shinigami, from Aizen. Komamura Sajin was stunned in place, and he gradually understood why the Tsubaki house failed. Shu Bing was distracted, and couldn't help saying, except for the captain, I can't imagine how terrifying a Shinigami known as the strongest Shinigami would be. Chapter 119. Dark Soul Society, public indignation, everyone scolded, seeking subscription? The man who can kill even Kenpachi, who was invited by the Zero Division. What kind of power is hidden in the body? Wujian can't hold Mochung Shuangya anymore, I hope you won't release Aizen. Tōshirō frowned, although he didn't know what wrong Mochung Shuangya had committed and was imprisoned in wujian, but he was strong. It is definitely not an opponent of Aizen. Even if Mo Chengshuang also escapes, Sereti still has so many captains around, and he will never let him do anything reckless. But if Aizen comes out, Soul Society may be destroyed again. Don't worry, all the seals on Aizen won't be lifted that easily, Jingle Chunshui reassured Tōshirō. It can be seen that the Kido who sealed Aizen was sealed off by the 96 Beijing Fireframe. This Kido is one of the strongest Bakudo in the seal system, plus Aizen also has Bakudo's 99 Forbidden P***P seal on him. It is impossible to break away through one's own strength. Moreover, wujian also has the function of suppressing Ryatsu, relying on Mole City Shuangya, the chance of all of them being lifted is slim. Void Knight Palace. Aizen smiled lightly, he never expected to meet a senior in wujian. Although he has not been sealed now, he is well aware of the pain of being crushed and sealed repeatedly. It would be much easier to lift the 3 seals, however, Mo Chengshuang would not help him lift the seal for no reason. Mochung Shuangya, what is your purpose, Invisible Empire? When your majesty went to see Aizen, the seal on his face was already broken, so even Ma Cheng was liberated. Musk was a little surprised. Even Yuhabach finds it troublesome, but Mo Chengshuang is so easy? Yes, this guy is very mysterious, and his abilities should be very special. Ace Tenno nodded, even more special than the holy word ability of the Star-Crossed Knights. Return to the video screen. Aizen is bound to the seat, compared with Guocheng, which can move freely, has an obvious advantage. But Yulu Zilu behind Mocheng Shuangye kept laughing. Mocheng, this guy can't move now, why don't you snatch his Hogyoku, maybe you can have more power than him. Yulu Zilu urged Mocheng Shuangye. Shut up. Mole Chengshuang also lowered his voice, telling Yulu Zilu not to speak. He already knew the power contained in Hogyoku when Ichimaru Jin assassinated Aizen, and Hogyoku has been completely integrated with Aizen. Even if Hogyoku is taken away, he cannot use it himself. After Yulu Zilu was scolded, she didn't speak again. Mole City Shuang also asked Aizen a few questions related to the outside world, and then disappeared in the darkness. Aizen didn't show the slightest surprise or panic at the scene in front of him, and closed his eyes after a faint smile, as if nothing had happened. Mucheng Shuang is also quite wise, and didn't listen to that woman's snatching of Aizen's Hogyoku. Komamura Sajin exhaled outside the video. If he really did, Aizen's seal is likely to be broken. It melted and disappeared again. This guy should be able to leave wujian easily. Kurotsuchi Mayuri frowned. Looking at it this way, Mojo City Shuang should be able to leave wujian anytime and anywhere. Instead of waiting until Aizen is sealed. That is to say, for so many years, Mocheng Shuangye lived in Seiredi? Sui Feng frowned. She was not completely unfamiliar with Mo Chengshuang. But as the captain of the secret mobile team, it was her fault that she didn't notice Mole City Shuangye for so many years. Uncertain. Jingle Chunshui shook his head. If Mo Chengshuang had always existed Seiredi, there would be no signs of it. It must be Zaya Laporo who destroyed the Technology Development Bureau, causing part of the Wujian seal to be destroyed. That guy has a chance to jump out. Kurotsuchi Mayuri's eyes softened and became sharp. There are many places where Seiredi distributes seamless sealing barriers. The Technology Development Bureau is one place. If it is destroyed, the Wujian seal will be loosened, and Mo Chengshuang, who has inexplicable special abilities, may also escape from it. Jashiro agrees. If Mucheng Shuang also comes out, wouldn't there be two Kenpachi? Shubbing looked at Zaraki Kenpachi. In the video, Mucheng Shuang was also wearing the captain of the 11th Division, Haori. Not just two Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi showed a rampant smile. Just come out, I'll just cut him off. The video screen continues to play. The 13th team is outside the house, do it. Jingle Chunshui came to look for Jashiro, and wanted to discuss Arankar with his assistant who was recuperating in Yugantang. Can be found a woman out of place appeared. After seeing the woman, Jingle Chunshui tried his best to suppress Ryotsu to observe secretly. The woman is indeed Arankar, but the Ryotsu she exudes is unusually quiet, not full of evil spirit like other Arankars. This made Jingle Chunshui curious. He sighed deeply, and walked towards Arankar. Miss, are you lost? Arankar was surprised by Uncle Fan Chuan's accusation. But after observing Jingle carefully, Arankar was stunned for a moment, and then said, You were at that time. Jingle was even more confused, and asked with a smile, Have we met, a cute girl like you? After seeing it once, it must be unforgettable for a lifetime. However, Arankar began to slowly dissolve, and said at the same time, You are the one who was with Kenpachi before. Sorry, because this place is so beautiful, I couldn't help but come here. I'm leaving now, please don't mind. Jingle didn't have any impression of the girl, but when he mentioned Tsukiyashiki, he thought of Soya Mojo, which made his heart tense. Captain Jingle, are you even flirting with Arankar? The corner of Omeda's mouth outside the video twitched. But it is true that this woman is different from other Arankars, not like a bad person. Jingle Chunshui coughed lightly. What is teasing? I'm just looking for information, okay. Void Knight Palace. Is that woman? Is your subordinate? Yami looked at Zaya Laporo, scratched his head, very curious. I always feel like I have seen this female Arankar somewhere. Zaya Laporo shook his head. Roga Palamaya, it used to be, but now it doesn't count. He has long realized that the spider who fought Kenpachi in the first place was Raka. Roha Palamaya is an artificial fiction he created. However, her destiny does not contain the hope of the creator like Nirvana. She is just a prop in the eyes of Zaya Laporo. When Zaya Laporo explored the perfect life, Roha Palamaya was his key research object. With the help of Roha Negation's ability, he scattered all his knowledge and memory on various natural substances of Hueco Mundo to achieve perfection. Goal of life. But after he completed the conception notice, he could be reborn at any time, so he abandoned Luo Jia's experiment. After that, Luo Jia was sent to Aizen by him to do the Arankar experiment, so as to obtain the appearance of a human being. He usually did medical work. When Mirai treated Yami's severed arm by Kurosaki Ichigo, he was punched to death by Yami. They are all acquaintances. The corners of Grimjiao's mouth raised slightly, and he asked immediately, why does this guy and Mo Chengshuang have similar abilities? Zaya Laporo waved his hand. Of course it was created according to Muchung Shuangya's ability. Although he didn't research Mole City Shuangya into the instant killing and cutting house, but there is no problem in analyzing some abilities. Return to the video screen. Seoul Society, Business District. The streets were empty, with almost no pedestrians. Although there is no errand car around Seirei, the Seoul Society is still panicking. At this time, a little girl in rich clothes came to the optical shop. The girl is Omeda's younger sister, Hidai, who had previously ordered a gift for her second brother, Kijiro Saburo. The store manager Ginjiro warmly entertained Kyo, and went to the warehouse to find gift boxes. But this time, a man wearing a captain's haori walked into the store. Without saying anything, he put the cloth bag in his hand on the table and turned to leave. The store manager is not here now, would you like to wait? Shidai kindly reminded. Mojo Shoya looked at her expressionlessly and said, You are Omeda, right? Shidai was stunned for a moment. The captain actually knew his name, thinking that he must be very familiar with Big Brother. In the Omeda family full of shit, you're the only better one. Mole Chengshuang also said coldly. When Shidai heard someone slandering his family, he tried to defend himself angrily. But Mo Chengshuang didn't care at all, and kept talking about the Omeda family. Shidai was directly annoyed and cried. This Mochung Shuangye dares to bully my sister. Omeda outside the video clenched her fists, and immediately wanted to teach him a lesson. Sui Feng glanced at him and said, It seems that what he said is correct. XB. Omeda, who was on duty in the picture, received a call, and learned from the phone that Hidai had a dispute with members of the 11th team in the commercial street. The sister-in-law madman Omeda suddenly lost his composure and rushed to the commercial street. After arriving at the scene, it was discovered that the captain of the AEB 11th team was not Zaraki Kenpachi. Who are you? You are not the captain but dare to wear the captain's haori. Do you know that this is a felony? Omeda yelled at Mole City Shuangya. Facing this fragile aristocratic man, he was full of confidence. Mole Yosoya smiled contemptuously. Representative of the rice bucket, Omeda Nico Doroman Miyamichio Marichio. Omeda froze when she heard her full name. He was probably surprised that someone could make him a complete guest. Vice Captain Omeda, your full name is Omeda Nico Doroman Mishibusuke Marichio. Tōshirō pupil quake outside the video. How can someone have such a long name? Omeda smiled awkwardly. Yes, that's my full name. It's outrageous. Can you pronounce your name completely now? Kira said with some excitement. Shout, Omeda Nico Doroman Misho. No, Omeda was taken aback for a moment, and then complained. I can't remember my name. In the picture, Omeda looked at Mo Chengshuang's indifferent and arrogant look, and said that he was an idiot, and immediately wanted to give him some color. But as soon as he took the shot, he was actually in the middle of the air. Before he could react, his body was smashed to the ground as if being lifted up. Omeda panicked. The opponent showed no sign of making a move. Although he is afraid of death, he is ready to be a hero in front of his younger sister Hidai. But before he could make a move, Ginjiro, the boss of Silver Dragonfly, took the lead in using Bakudo to imprison Mole Yoshoya. Ginjiro was originally the vice captain of the 6th Division, and this kind of Kido is not difficult for him. At this time, Omeda's father, Omeda Nozomi appeared. Use a gorgeous set of Bakudo, along with Ginjiro, to seal Mole Castle Soya. I can't understand why you guys would do something like this, knowing that these attacks are against me. It's useless, it's unnecessary. Mole City Shuangya looked indifferent, and then Bakudo, who restrained him, slowly melted and disappeared as if aged by Baragan. However, at this time, Yulu Zalu appeared and said in a sharp voice. You hate people who have boring conversations so much, but you talk so much nonsense with that little girl, do you like it? FK her, is it because she is like that woman? She is a chick who doesn't know the world. You are worried about her, right? Hearing Yulu Zalayu's chatter, Mo Chengshuang was also very upset, but at this moment he felt a Ryotsu approaching him, so he said to Ginjiro, 250 years ago, the compensation. I put the condolence money and interest for your family on the counter, please go down. Then he dissolves and disappears. Why did Soya Mojo give condolence money to Vice Captain Ginjiro? Rukia outside the video was a little curious. Omeda was also a little surprised. 250 years ago, wasn't it too long ago? At this time, Jingle Chunshui frowned. The Mochung family used to be a well-known family in the Soul Society, especially Kido and swordsmanship, but, because of that accident. At this time, the screen changed. 250 years ago. Soul Society, a virtual pit. Surrounded by stands, many noble members sat on the stands with hippie smiles. And the members of the Mole City family below were all panicked. Because of being framed by other families, he was charged with attempting to rebel. At that time, the Soul Society was still a regime with an ugly tradition. The family accused of treason would first be thrown into a place similar to the coliseum to fight with Shu. When you come down, you will be exiled. Mochung Shuangya and his sister were also in the execution queue. Dozens of members of the Mochung family were killed in the Shukang one after another. Mo Chengshuang also watched his relatives die one by one. The piercing mourning was intertwined with the sneer from the stands, making the panic on his face even stronger. Soon, only Zhou Chengye and his sister remained in the besieged family. It's so boring, How about changing the rules? A wretched-looking noble old man shook his head boredly. Why don't they let the siblings fight? If anyone survives, let him go. Okay, this is fun. That's right, the blood of the Mochung family has gone astray, and they raised this group of waste. The rest of the nobles agreed and laughed even louder as they looked at the vulnerable siblings. What a bunch of hateful old things. Tōshirō outside the video looked at the ugly faces of this group of nobles, filled with righteous indignation. I didn't expect Mo Chengshuang to have such an experience. Rangaku was also quite sympathetic. Oh, Jingle Chunshui sighed. They are also only Shinigami of Seirei, they cannot intervene in disputes between nobles. Void Knight Palace. Is this the Soul Society? The ugly face is disgusting. Lilynette looked furious, he even felt a little sorry for Mo Chengshuang and his sister. Hearing the sound of the explosion, her sister's words also became the pain of Mo Chengshuang's life. The fighting time is short, save the lives of our siblings. The executive officer in the stands put away his smile and replaced it with an unpredictable expression. Okay, I promise you. Xiao Shuang, you have to become a powerful Shinigami. Ha ha ha, of course it doesn't count, and defeating the opponent alive is considered a victory. The elder sister was very excited. She looked back at Mo Chengshuang, who was already limp on the ground, and showed a gentle smile. Don't worry, Xiao Shuang, I will definitely let you get out of here alive. Oh, if you say that, the guarantee you just made doesn't count. The executive officer smiled wickedly, and looked at Mo Chengshuang, who was trembling and sobbing. Molcheng. Stark nodded. No wonder Lord Aizen wants to leave Soul Society, it turns out that place is too dark. When she said this, she was ready to make a sacrifice. The video continues to play. The last boy in the family, you have to prepare a strategy, please cheer him up. The elder sister's voice came from Shukeng, and then she tried her best to use Kido to die with Shushu. Mo Chengshuang also looked at her sister walking towards Shukeng with some reluctance. It's really great, to think of dying together with Shu. The executive clapped his hands, not knowing whether it was ridicule or praise. Hearing the constant sarcasm around her, my sister's gentle but firm voice sounded. If I can defeat this head, it proves that we have the ability to inherit the blood of the Mochung family, then please. The nobles also interjected, cheering happily. To die together, isn't it considered defeating Shu? Chapter 120. The strongest bankai? The whole Seirei is his, seeking subscription? Damn it, this executive is really not a person. My sister has already killed Shu and even lost her life. How dare you say it doesn't count? A murderous look flashed in Rangaku's beautiful eyes outside the video. Not to mention fighting against injustices, if she had been there at that time, she would never have allowed this group of nobles to do evil. What he clearly agreed to, but within a minute, he regretted it. Is this something that humans can do? It is said that the Mochung family was framed by other families. Jashiro looked solemn and sighed. It is not difficult for the nobles to transfer interests and unite to bring down a family. Hearing that Mochung's family was framed, Rangaku became even more angry, and scolded. They are all a bunch of stubborn old things. It's fine to follow the rules as usual, but to humiliate them like this. At this time, Jingle Chunshui supported the bamboo hat, with a hard-to-find smile on his face. Return to the video screen. When the voice of the executive officer fell, the nobles on the side began to boo. The Light of Mole City family, it's your turn to play. Defeat those falsehoods, and you will avenge your sister. But don't do things that hurt yourself like your sister did. Mole Chengshuang was also panicked and didn't know how to deal with it. Another shoe was put into the shoe pit. And the sister who worked hard for him has also left this world. Mo Chengshuang also stood up slowly, looking at the nobles pointing at him and laughing in the stands. He only understood one thing in his heart. My sister died in vain. All this is just a sideshow for the nobles. But he has no choice but to fight. Seeing Shu rushing towards him, Mo Chengshuang's heart trembled, feeling the heart-piercing pain. But the next moment, a voice called his name. It was only then that Mojo Soya realized that he had entered the world of Zanpakuto. The nobles in the stands didn't know what was going on, thinking that the poor boy was frightened and stupid, waiting to be devoured by Shu. Move. Are you scared to pee? Idiot, you don't even have the slightest bit of courage in your sister, but she was so scared that she couldn't move. Ha ha ha, the trash of the Mochung family. This kind of family had better be destroyed as soon as possible, and don't leave a single seed behind. The nobles all cheered. But suddenly, a noble man who was shouting fiercely broke his arms without warning. The stump fell to the ground with a bang, and the wound seemed to be severed by a knife blade. Who did it? Seeing this, the people next to him wanted to find the perpetrator, but in the next second, his neck fell off. Now everyone panicked and ran away. However, he found that his body was tightly bound, and the air seemed to have life, tearing them apart bit by bit. Endless howls resounded over the coliseum. However, this time it was no longer the members of the Mochung family who screamed, but the nobles watching the show. Soon, everyone present was wiped out. Void Knight Palace. Well done, Mochung Shuangya. Sun applauded with all his strength, and the result was really refreshing. What's good, Mochung Shuang has nothing to do with you, don't act like a saint. Neutra disagrees. He thinks that the nobles of the Soul Society murdered Mochung's family, which made Mo Shuang also awaken his ability, which is a big deal. It's a gradual thing. If it weren't for them, Mojo City Shuang might not have stepped into the Shinigami road. Shout, emotionless thing. Apache glanced at Neutra coldly, full of disdain. Okay, you have feelings, don't get involved. Neutra snorted coldly, sat on the seat with his hands folded, and turned his head away. The 8th floor prison, seamless. Mo Shuang also remained dignified. Seeing this scene again, he felt a little touched. Although he took revenge happily, but until now, he still doesn't feel the slightest sense of redemption. Tien Fen even regretted his actions. It is true that a group of nobles such as the executive officer are dead, but not all the people in the stands are as inhuman as them. If someone among them has interceded for his family or is a good person, he is killing innocent people indiscriminately. Mo Shuang's eyes lost the brilliance, and the powerful power he gained at the cost of losing everything seemed meaningless. The family has been destroyed, and the dead sister cannot be resurrected. It's rare to see you so sad. Don't be sad about the past anymore. Those people deserve to die. Yuli Linliu's sharp voice rang in the ears of Yangcheng Shuangdi. How do you know I'm sad? Mo Shuang also spoke calmly. HMPH. Yulu Zilu shook her head. Your expression is exactly the same as when you attacked the Tsubaki house back then. Shut up. Mo Shuang also stopped the rain and dew impatiently. Didn't you say not to mention the past? Why did you say it again? But at this time, Lin Sheng's expression also changed slightly. The battle between him and Kiyoshiki. On the surface, it seemed that Kiyoshiki had lost badly, and he was wounded and fell in a pool of blood at the moment of the battle, but in fact, he did something wrong in advance. Morihasu also knows that Tsukiyashiki is powerful. If he manifests a blade in the air as usual, there is absolutely no way to harm him. Simply fuse one's soul with a part of Kiyoshiki, forcefully control the Kiyoshiki to weaken Ryotsu, and then manifest a blade inside the body of Kiyoshiki. That is to say, when he challenged Takuyoshiki at the banquet, he was already in a fighting state. Although this kind of battle will bring harm to Soya Mojojo himself, but facing an opponent like Kiyoshiki, he must be killed with one blow. Shout, tell me to shut up every time, it makes me lose face. Yulu Zilu curled her lips and continued. Before Aizen came in, you could only talk to me. Mo Shuang was also speechless, silently shaking his head and said, that was not a sneak attack. He is not ashamed of the behavior of planning in advance, these are just the results of judgments after rational analysis. It's just that some people put morality and honor in an important position. He is not like them. Return to the video screen. The streets of Seirei, Yumi and Kakaku felt a Ryotsu that something was wrong. Although it is Shinigami's Ryotsu, it brings a feeling of suffocation. The two followed the trail, but suddenly, Ryotsu split in two and scattered in different directions. Generally speaking, Ryotsu stratification does not exist, and there are definitely some clues. Catch them separately. Gong Qin and Yijiao soldiers hunted down in two ways. However, just as Gong Qin was looking for him, Mo Shuang also appeared. Seeing Mo Shuang wearing the 11th team Captain Haori, Yumi glared at him with murderous aura. That's Zaraki Kenpachi's Haori, who in front of him dares to wear the captain's clothes. Mo Shuang also remained indifferent, and did not intend to do anything, but took the lead in asking, is it the chief of the 11th team? Seeing that the other party was not hostile, Gong Qin nodded while maintaining his vigilance. Didn't kill the real Kenpachi, your current captain, Zaraki, is not worthy of the name of Kenpachi. Mo Shuang also directly touched Yukina's nylon, and continued, and he didn't even learn Kurosaki Ichigo, which bankai didn't learn. Can't win, and I have no intention of giving up the Kenpachi name to someone like that. Damn it, you underestimate people. Madarame Mikaku outside the video muttered cursingly, our captain killed 10 generations of Kenpachi, and he inherited the name of Kenpachi with dignity. Gongqin glanced at Zhao. Yijiao, he means that only by killing him can he be considered a real Kenpachi. And 10 generations of Kenpachi Oni Yansheng is not worthy of the name of Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed wildly. Okay, you want me to inherit the name of the real Kenpachi, right? I'll kill you right now. With that said, Zaraki Kenpachi walked towards the door of the meeting room. There is no need to guess, he is rushing to the underground world. Yachinliu quickly stopped Zaraki Kenpachi. Aegean, calm down, the captain is back to the first team. If you want to go to Mao's underground prison, can't you meet Yamamoto Genryuzai? And no one can enter wujian, let alone Zaraki Kenpachi who goes in and kills people. Zaraki Kenpachi calmed down when he heard the captain, and murmured. Anyway, Mo Shuang and I must have a fight. Return to the video screen. Gongqin frowned when he heard Mo Shuang's words. The members of the 11th team are all short-tempered, some people say bad things about Zaraki Kenpachi. Bloom, Vine Peacock. He immediately released Zanpakuto Shikai and slashed at Ma Shuangju. But Mo Shuang also seemed to cast Kamui, the blade directly shuttled out of his body. Gongqin was a little confused, and observed everything around him to analyze Mo Shuang's ability. Suddenly, the ground under his feet seemed to have life, entangled his feet and dragged them into the ground. Gongqin, who was trying to struggle, found that his deadly costume seemed to be alive, and he was entangled with it and couldn't move. In addition, the rattan peacock spun around in the air and fell into the hands of Mole City Kenpachi. Gongshin has been refreshed in 3 views, the other party obviously did nothing. Who the hell are you? He tried to drink with a struggle. Mole City Kenpachi didn't answer him, but instead asked, why do you hide the existence of the glazed peacock? The glazed peacock is Yukimi's real Shikai. Gongshin was a little surprised. Why does this person even know the glazed peacock? Could it be that he saw the battle between himself and Shu Bing back then? But he still answered truthfully, the glass-colored peacock belongs to the Kido family Zanpakuto, and the 11th team is more keen on physical attacks, so he doesn't want people to see it. Little Gong, you don't have to do this. Bachinliu outside the video looked at Gongshin with a serious look. Gongshin scratched his head a little ashamedly, and then smiled naively. Yes, everyone knows now. Dear Gong, it turns out that your Shikai is not complete Shikai now. Kira was a little curious, raised her eyebrows and said, can you show your complete Shikai? There will be more opportunities in the future. Shin Gong looked at each other and smiled. Return to the screen. Mole Chengshuang also disagreed with Gongshin's answer. Even if your abilities are known to everyone, they probably won't dislike you. 0. Ask for flowers. He is very precise and objective analysis. After a brief conversation, he didn't want to waste any more time. This time he came to find Gongshin to take away the vine peacock. Your Zanpakuto is in my custody for now. As he said that, he was about to leave, but Yulu appeared again and asked noisily, do you still have nostalgia for the 11th team? Shut up. Mo Chengshuang said impatiently. Who the hell are you talking to? Gongshin was sweating coldly, looking at Mole City, both also twisted. He looked like he was talking with his head, and there was no one around him, and he suddenly felt chills down his spine. Just pretend that I'm talking to myself. After Mo Chengshuang finished speaking, he dissolved into the air and disappeared. However, the screen changed. Yamamoto Genryuzai held a general meeting. Tōshirō was absent due to illness, and Kurotsuchi Mayuri and Zaraki Kenpachi also did not attend for unknown reasons. The mole Chengshuang and Wujian also escaped from prison. Yamamoto Genryuzai also announced the content of this meeting. Unohana Retsu, Hiriko Shinji, Lujiro and other captains suddenly changed their expressions. Especially Jingle Chunshui, when he met Luo Jia 2 days ago, he noticed something abnormal. At this time, Tu Dian asked strangely, what does Zanpakuto look like in Shuangye? You have to understand the ability of the escapee. But no one can give an accurate answer. Although they have never seen the Zanpakuto of Soya Moleyo, they know better than anyone else that he has Zanpakuto. Omeda recounted how he met Soya Mojo before, and also mentioned that Soya Mojo had an inexplicable conversation with Air. However, at this time, Yoruichi walked into the conference room. That's nothing special, it was Yulu who was talking to Mochung Shuangye. Yoruichi. How could it be in Seirei? Sui Feng outside the video felt tense after seeing Yoruichi. 0. And you also know about Mochung Shuangye? Yeah, Captain Hiriko and Captain Fengchao are both in the meeting room. They should have been reinstated. Could it be that Kazuki is back? Jingle Chunshui glanced at him looking for something. Kurotsuchi Mayuri glanced. Kurotsuchi Mayuri immediately rolled his eyes, and said angrily. What does that be ******** D coming back for? Does he want to come back to be the captain of the 12th Division again? Or the director of the Technology Development Bureau? Jing. Bandleader, you don't take me seriously, Captain Nirvana, you misinterpreted my meaning. Jingle Chunshui smiled. I mean, Urahara Kazuki and Yoruichi came back to provide information about Mole City. Kurotsuchi Mayuri became even more angry, and his eyes were about to blaze. You think I can't research the ability of Mojo Soya, right? Sui Feng, Tōshirō and other captains nodded at the same time. Kurotsuchi Mayuri returned to the video screen. The people in the meeting room saw Yoruichi's appearance with surprised expressions on their faces. After all, he is someone who betrayed the Soul Society, so it is somewhat inappropriate to appear in Seirei. Yamamoto Genryuzai's face was extremely dark, but he still asked Yoruichi to tell the information she knew. Yoruichi also truthfully stated the fact that he turned his body with Kazuki 100 years ago and concretized the rain and dew. Yulu likes to talk a lot about her abilities, and only by putting the user in crisis can she be given pleasure. Yoruichi shook his head as he spoke, complaining, what a disturbing Zanpakuto. However, after hearing Yulu mention Wujian, I reported this matter to the Commander-in-Chief of Secret Mobile. I don't know what happened afterwards. Hearing this, Yamamoto Genryuzai frowned tightly. Katetsu Izan also panicked and swallowed deeply, then our privacy. No wonder my relatives and I couldn't see Yulu. It turns out that she is like a spirit in the air. Omeda gasped. At this time, Rangaku frowned. Isn't this kind of bankai able to monitor everything at will? Cannot see the rain and dew Tōshirō suddenly realized, and the place of the duel between the two was in Seirei, which happened to be within the control range of Soya Mole City. Fusion. Yoruichi stared blankly. The reason why he can talk to objects that should be invisible is because his inner world and the real world have merged, so other people. There is a bankai with this ability, It's really terrifying. Jingle Chunhui outside the video opened his eyes wide, never expecting to have such a capable person beside him. Understood. Kenpachi probably was defeated by this kind of method similar to manipulating spirits. However, the commander-in-chief of the secret maneuver at that time also reported the matter to Room 46, but was warned not to disclose the matter. Seeing Yamamoto Motoyanagi's dazed look, Yoruichi guessed, "I'm afraid it's Mojo Soya's ability that everyone knows, which will greatly damage everyone's morale. Merge and dominate. The captain who has always been like a god exists. And the scope." Yoruichi paused for a moment, with a touch of shock in his expression, and then continued. "The range is the entire Seirei. In other words, every part of Seirei can be seen as Soya Mojo himself." Yamamoto Motoyanagi nodded and asked, "What is the specific ability of the siege?" For this, he should not know. Besides, Yulujalu is always in the state of bankai, so he can't see the Zanpakuto of Mochung Shuangya. As long as it is in the state of bankai, Yulujalu can communicate with everything around it. Chapter 121. Inheriting the name of Kenpachi, Zaraki's Mole City, seeking subscription. The hearts of the female Shinigami present tensed up. If Mojo Shuangya's ability can really fuse all the spirits of Seirei into one, then wouldn't they be able to be seen by Mojo Shuangya in their usual activities? This is too embarrassing. No way. The corner of Rukia's mouth twitched slightly, looking at Mochung Shuangye. It didn't look like a dirty area. You can't judge by appearance, Rukia. Maybe he's hiding in the shadows right now. Rangaku looked around cautiously. Don't worry, Wujian's seal is not as fragile as you think. Even Mo Chengshuang has special abilities, but before the seal is broken, it is absolutely impossible for him to escape from Wujian. Yunohana Retsu calmly told the rest not to worry. Vice Captain Matsumoto, Vice Captain Hutch, what are you doing in such a panic? Did you do something unknown? Jingle Chunhui smiled flirtatiously, showing an expression that deserved to be beaten. Shao Kiksu couldn't stand it anymore. Captain, if you show this expression again, I will be added to the person who beat you. Jingle Spring Water. Void Night Palace. This ability is not bad, senior. Aizen, who was slumped on the throne, smiled evilly. Just now he had guessed that Mo Chengshuang also possessed a similar ability, but he didn't expect the range behind Bankai to be so large. There is a full range of Seirei, so even though Mo Chengshuang was imprisoned in Wujian, he was well aware of some of the things that happened outside. He can use his own spiritual particles to fuse the spiritual particles of other inorganic objects. No wonder he can manipulate the ground at will, and even dead objects like dead monsters. Yami suddenly realized, and felt incredible about this advanced ability. According to Yoruichi's description, he can also manipulate the spirit particles in living people and control them. The reason for Kenpachi's sudden death is that Mojo Shoya controlled the Reiki in his body, right? Hollybell's eyes flashed brightly, and Chi seemed to guess why Kei Yoshiki died inexplicably. Turi Yoshiki was invited by Team Zero, and his strength is absolutely outstanding. It is basically impossible to instantly control the spirit in his body. Lilinite analyzed. Stark nodded. Well, it may be that the preparations were made in advance, and the effect only came into play at the beginning of the battle. Why do you say it sounds so nice? Isn't it just a sneak attack? Grimjow smiled evilly, and said such a sneak attack is so noble. Just a villain. Return to the video screen. After Yoruichi talked about Mojo's twin powers, Komamura Sajin asked a question. Since the entire Seirei is a Mole City Shuangye, isn't Infernal Affairs useless to him? Yoruichi patiently explained. Because Wujian has a seal that weakens Zanpakuto's ability, and if Yulu Zalayu's words are true, Mojian City Shuang and Wujian can only see what happens in Seirei, and cannot control it. She also suggested that part of the seal that the Technology Development Bureau was responsible for was broken, and it might not affect other prisoners, such as Aizen. Even if the Wujian seal is weakened, they still have multiple bonds on them, and there is no way to escape without Zanpakuto by their side. But Soya's Zanpakuto has always been Bankai, and once the seal weakens, he can regain his control and escape from prison. Nani, this guy can see everything that happened in Seirei and Wujian? Rangaku outside the video suddenly clenched his fists. Now it is confirmed that Mochiangshuang can't escape from prison, but they can monitor Seirei and Wujian. What's the difference? Katetsu Izan also frowned. I hope Mojojo is a little self-aware, otherwise we won't let him go when he comes out. Rangaku nodded in agreement. He must be killed. Return to the video screen. After Yoruichi said everything, he looked up and looked around. A provocative voice sounded. You should also know everything we said, Mole City Shuangye? Next moment. Like a dense cloud of smoke, Mo Chengshuang also gathered and appeared in front of the captains. Captain, long time no see. Soya Mojo bowed down respectfully to Yamamoto Genryuzai. After all, this used to be his captain, and it was always necessary to exchange pleasantries when we met again. Yamamoto Genryuzai just frowned and didn't react too aggressively. Now Mo Chengshuang is also a fugitive, facing everyone. Presumably he has not made sufficient preparations, and he will definitely not be so calm. Captain, I am just a small part now, even if I am burned by you, I still exist. Mole Chengshuang also spoke first, and he wasn't hostile either, he just wanted to explain his purpose. Facing the seemingly sincere Mojo Soya, Yamamoto Genryuzai said bluntly. You were the one who took the initiative to go to prison, what do you want to do now that you have escaped from prison? Mole Chengshuang also smiled slightly, expressing that he wanted the assistance of the captains to help him find an Arrancar woman. To put it simply, the ultimate ideal of Mole City Soya is to use his ability to eliminate all emotions that would degenerate human beings, so as to make Hueco Mundo and even the entire hell disappear. If this is done, the Shinigami's vocation of destroying Hollow will be considered complete. The world will only develop in a good direction, but according to the speed of his transformation, such an ambition cannot be fulfilled. It is impossible for his transformation to keep up with the cycle of birth, old age, sickness and death of human beings in this world, but he accidentally discovered the ability of the Arrancar woman named Luia. If he could have Luia's strength, he could greatly increase his speed. Such a transformation is entirely achievable, Seirei. This Mochung Shuang is really too arrogant, dared to break into the meeting room. Tōshirō frowned, somewhat surprised. Rangaku explained. This is just a part of Mojo Soya, even if the captain kills it, it is not the body of Mojo Soya. It's just a part of the spirit. Captain Jingle, what exactly does Mochung Shuangya want to do? Komamura Sajin asked Jingle Chunshui with some confusion. Jingle Chunshui shook his head, and explained. Back then, Mochung Shuang also wanted to transform the residents of Rukongai into fighters fighting Shu, but I'm a little unclear about what happened afterwards. Jingle Chunshui did understand some of the situation back then, but Mochung Shuangyi's transformation of Rukongai residents was directly controlled by Room 46. So he didn't know what happened in it, transforming the inhabitants of Rukongai into warriors. Komamura Sajin was a little surprised. This is an almost impossible thing to accomplish, right? The people living in Rukongai are weak souls, they have no fighting power at all. It is usually the Shinigami who fight against the Hollow, how can the inhabitants of Rukongai become warriors? Of course, all the captains present felt this way. Jingle Chunshui shook his head and didn't say much. After all, Room 46 was the mastermind behind the scenes, and he, the captain of Seirei, couldn't get in the way. Endless prison. How dare you break into the meeting room where the captain is? Yulu Zalayu's sharp voice rang in Mochung Shuangyi's ear. Although he was a little annoyed, he still said, I will not pursue the matter of Yoruichi who is my house behind my back. Didn't you see that Yoruichi in the video has discovered my existence? If you don't show your face again, wouldn't it be too pretentious? Yulu Zalu continued to complain, your wishes will not be recognized. Mole Chengshuang also felt his heart tighten when he heard these words. When he was the captain of the 11th team, he already had great ideals. Wanting to thoroughly carry out Shinigami's duty to destroy Hollow, he came up with a slightly different method at the time. He just wanted to transform the residents of Rukongai into fighters, although he followed the rules and even discussed his plan with Room 46. However, the sages in the 46 rooms are really idle, and they don't believe that Mo Chengshuang can turn the powerless ordinary residents into so-called warriors. So the permission order was issued with a sense of sarcasm, but the slap in the face came soon. Mole City Shuang also really reformed a few Rukongai criminals, not only with strong combat effectiveness, but also very loyal to Mole City Kenpachi. But the success of this experiment was not only not recognized, but also brought unprecedented troubles to Mo Chengshuang. The old guys in Room 46 sensed the threat and created a completely loyal army, is that okay? Therefore, it has been planned to terminate the transformation of Mochung Shuangye on the grounds that it violates the spirit of humanity. The 46 rooms in the back operated in secret, and became Mochung Shuangye, who illegally reformed the souls of criminals. Thinking of this, Mochung Shuangye showed a touch of malice on his face. If it wasn't for those old things who added a lot of piecemeal crimes to me, I wouldn't have become a major criminal of the Soul Society. I can't help it. Room 46 is indeed a bit dishonest. When we go out, kill all those old guys. Yulu Zalu licked her lips, and a killing intent flashed in her eyes. Shut up. Mole Chengshuang also glanced at her, he didn't care about these charges at all. The pursuit of the captains only delayed the full implementation of his plan. Back then, Mojo Shuangya defeated all the captains in Shinigami, and when he walked out of Seirei and was about to go to Rukongai to implement the plan, he was stopped by Jashiro and Chunshui. It was at that time that he felt the breath of Team Zero in Seirei. He clearly remembered that when he said the sentence, the Spirit King doesn't agree with me, well, then I will accept the trial. Then he obediently surrendered, and took the initiative to enter Wuzhong to serve his sentence. Since I have the opportunity to get out of infernal affairs in the future, there are many things I can do. Mochung Shuang also has been sealed in Wujian for more than 200 years, and it is true that part of the reason for taking the initiative to serve his sentence back then was from the Zero Division and Lingwang. But at this moment, his worries have all disappeared. Do you want to continue with your plan? Yulu Zalu frowned. This kind of thing is not easy to do. Soul Society and Yamamoto Genryuzai, the new captain of the 11th team Zaraki Kenpachi, it doesn't seem to be easy to deal with. After the Zaraki Kenpachi bankai that was played before, Yulu Zalu knew the energy that exploded. Even Mole City Shuang has very special abilities, but they are not necessarily the opponents of Zaraki Kenpachi. Mole Chengshuang also maintained his usual indifference, that's natural. Back to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, who did not attend the meeting, went to a special place with no signal. Shinigami can never set foot in the territory, Black Cavity. The Black Cavity is the channel used by Shu to travel to and from various worlds, and it is a space between existence and Shu. At this time, Theon Glanz, who had the same face as Zauoro, was staring at the own corpse, brought back from the Technology Development Bureau in this secret space with a puzzled face. Before he could figure out why he couldn't merge with his body, Kurotsuchi Mayuri's voice came from behind him. Who are you? Kurotsuchi Mayuri's voice is recognizable. Did you copy a copy of Ontology's memory and knowledge? Kurotsuchi Mayuri directly dismantled Theon Grant's identity. To put it more superficially, it is just a cluster of spiritual particles intertwined with information. And Zauoro's true soul is still in hell. Sean Grant sneered, but did not answer. Is it negation silk that keeps you alive? Kurotsuchi Mayuri sneered, and seemed to have seen the weakness of Theon Grant's. Kurotsuchi Mayuri, aware of this, has cut off the connection between himself and the fan beforehand. This time, the replica Theon Glanz was completely blinded, and he couldn't even escape. Theon Glanz was furious in an instant, directly tore a big hole in the Black Cavity, ignored Zauoro's body, and ran away directly. Void Knight Palace. Isn't that you, Zauoro? Yami asked curiously. Zauoro nodded. It's just a copy, but I didn't expect this guy to leave me behind. It really deserves death. He is a little depressed. Since you are a copy of yourself, you should think about helping the main body to resurrect. Why did this run away? Ha ha ha, the clone directly defected, Grimjow sneered. Seirei. Captain Nirvana was looking for information. Tōshirō frowned. At first he thought it was because of his own reasons that Mayuri didn't attend the meeting. It turned out to be chasing Zauoro. The captain's summons, how could I not go? Kurotsuchi Mayuri snorted coldly. Except for me to do some important things. Finding out the truth about Zauoro is indeed an important thing. Return to the video screen. Kurotsuchi Mayuri didn't care about Theon Glanz's escape at all, but was very interested in the sudden burst of powerful energy of this replica. Yinming, collect the information on the scene, he smiled lightly. Although the escaped Theon Glanz is not the real Zauoro, he has similar memory and knowledge and can quickly respond to the current situation. It's just that his reaction is a little bit different than that of the main body Zauoro. Theon Grant doesn't want to resurrect Zauoro anymore, but becomes Zauoro himself. He just wants to take back a part of Zauoro that he once discarded, to become the powerful person he once was. Even want to swallow Zauoro in hell, so as to really replace him. Be unique. 1.3 However, he was cut off by Kurotsuchi Mayuri's negation thread, and he even had some trouble maintaining his own form. So he found the Arrancar child, Picaro. In the name of playing games, he uses part of them as food to maintain his own form, and part of them to find the key person who can help him fulfill his ambition. That person is the Arrancar girl who has already been topped by Muchang Xuanya, Luo Jia. I didn't expect that Arrancar girl to be so popular. Tōshirō outside the video was a little surprised. Although that girl doesn't look like anything special. However, he is a key figure who can enable Soya Moleo and Theon Grant to fulfill their dreams at the same time. Anyway, she is very special. If Muchang Xuanya or Zauoro find out, it will definitely not be a good thing. Dukan Sajin said with a frown. The video continues to play. In addition to Sean Grants and Mol Chengshuang, they are also looking for Luia. The trickier Zaraki Kenpachi is also looking for her. But Zaraki didn't want to fight the weak Arrancar woman. It's because the captain ordered Zaraki Kenpachi to find the woman with the skull mask, and then he can fight Muchang Xuanya. As Zaraki Kenpachi, who loves to chase the strong, just the name of Kenpachi in Mole City is enough to make his blood boil. Zaraki Kenpachi also knew that the order issued by Yamamoto Genryuzai this time was quite meaningful. It's not that Zaraki Kenpachi went to Karakura town alone, but the 11th team was dispatched. The purpose is clear. Rules for inheriting the name of Kenpachi. Duel in front of 200 team members, the winner will become the captain of the 11th team and get the name of Kenpachi. Ha ha ha, I just said it, I will definitely have a battle with the siege. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed heartily, already looking forward to fighting this strange and powerful Mojo Soya. Who is the real Kenpachi who can inherit the name of Kenpachi? Chapter 122. Duplicate Theon. Mol Chengshuang also feels threatened, seeking subscription? Zaraki Kenpachi has longed for this fight for a long time. When he first saw Muchang Xuanya saying that he did not have the real name of Kenpachi, he had already ignited the idea of wanting to fight him. But looking at the video, it seems that the future self, under the orders of Yamamoto Genryuzai, is bound to have a battle with Mojo Xuanya. That guy's ability is inexplicable, but I will definitely not die for no reason like Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi gave a wicked smile. Thinking of Mojo Jojo mocking him for defeating Kurosaki Ichigo, who didn't even have a bankai, a surge of anger suddenly burned. What do you mean you haven't fought Kurosaki Ichigo before? That battle was obviously a tie between the two sides, okay. According to the timeline, at this time, it seems that the Quincy division of the Invisible Empire has not yet invaded the Soul Society, and Captain Zaraki should not have mastered Shikai yet, right? Jingle Chunshui stroked the bamboo hat. Anyway, when playing against Gerard, Zaraki Kenpachi has already mastered Shikai. Bankai was learned during the battle, however Quincy didn't attack Soul Society. Zaraki Kenpachi doesn't necessarily have the power of Shikai. There is only one case, if any. Jingle Chunshui's eyes flashed brightly, and then looked at Yunohana Retsu. So what if Shikai and Bankai don't exist? I'll kill both of them. Zaraki's sword, Lori, has a firm look and inherits the name of Kenpachi, which is not a child's play. It represents whether you have the ability to lead the 11th team. Not to mention myself, even Madarei Mikaku, Yumi and others are very eager for him to defeat Machung Shuangya. Ajien, I believe in you, come on. Yachinliu nodded, she naturally believed in Zaraki Kenpachi unconditionally. Return to the video screen. Inside the crossing gate, the Shinigami of the 11th squad, behind countless guide butterflies, moved forward with anxiously slow steps. Zaraki Kenpachi was a little irritable, and the speed of the journey made him a little impatient. If it wasn't for Gong Qin and Yizhao pulling him, he would probably have chopped off the slow butterfly. However, when they were about to reach the present world and pass through the world transmitting gate, an inexplicable figure stopped in front of everyone. Yumi recognized it at a glance. This guy is Soya Mojo, who stole his Zanpakuto before. And Mochung Shuang also still wears Haorio 4, the captain of the 11th team. This can make the members of the 11th team explode. As this guy Mochung Shuangya, he is still wearing the captain of the 11th team, Haori. How arrogant. Take it off quickly, this is our captain's exclusive clothes. Don't be ignorant, you're just the same Kenpachi you once were. The Shinigami of the 11th team talked one after another. Shut up. Zaraki Kenpachi let out a snarl. Seeing this, the soldiers quickly shut up. Hey, your name is Mojo City Soya, I'm Zaraki Kenpachi, and I'm here to kill you. Zaraki Kenpachi showed an ecstatic expression and burst out with a strong ryatsu. Compared with the murderous Zaraki Kenpachi, Guocheng still maintains his usual indifference. Looking at the many Shinigami behind Zaraki Kenpachi, he seemed to understand the meaning of Zaraki Kenpachi's coming here. To prove who is the real Kenpachi, finally met, Zaraki Kenpachi's eyes lit up outside the video. Although he didn't personally face it now, he already felt that the upcoming battle must be very fierce. The captain's arrangement is very ingenious. There was a starlight in Yunohana Retsu's eyes. She also cared about the name of Kenpachi. The Kenpachi of the 11th team is inherited by beheading the previous generation of Kenpachi. Mole City Shuang also took the initiative to enter wujian, resulting in a vacancy for the 9th generation Kenpachi. The 9th generation Kenpachi Gosuke, which is the most hip pull, was also born. Gosuke was originally the vice captain of Kiyoshiki, but because of the special reason of Soya Mojojo, he became the 9th generation Kenpachi logically. His strength is very ordinary, not worthy of the name of Kenpachi, and he was killed by Ghost Street Warrior, Gui Yansheng soon after. From the bottom of his heart, Yunohana Retsu doesn't recognize Gosuke as a Kenpachi. She doesn't even recognize Kenpachi Oniganjo, the 10th generation who defeated him. Moleyo Soya and Zaraki Kenpachi decided on the so-called real Kenpachi. That's exactly what Yunohana Retsu wants to see. Nearly 8,000 years ago, the young Zaraki Kenpachi left a knife mark on her neck with great force. In the battle between the two, she is more optimistic about Zaraki Kenpachi, the only man who talks about her. The video continues to play. Just as the two were about to fight, a group of rowdy Arrancar kids appeared. They all didn't mind the surrounding Mojo Soya and Zaraki Kenpachi, yelling. Yachiryu even went straight to the queue of Arrancar kids, shared some interesting things, and bullied Madarei Mikaku together. However, at this moment, an Arrancar child who was playing, his neck seemed to be cut by a knife blade, and blood was sprayed out directly. However, none of the people present showed any signs of doing anything. But they all know that Mochung Shuangye did it. Mole City Su also clearly draws the boundary between Shinigami and Hollow, and some can't understand the picture of Madarei Mikaku and Yachiryu living in harmony with Arrancar. Zaraki Kenpachi's mouth twitched at this time. He thought that there was no need to put him to death for this kind of non-threatening Arrancar. Mole City Soya ignored Zaraki Kenpachi and continued to use his abilities, and the surrounding Arrancar children fell to the ground with blood splattered one after another. Mu Chengshuang is so vicious. Rangaku outside the video frowned tightly. Of course, not only did he kill the harmless Arrancar child, but he also felt sorry for him monitoring Seirei all the time. Captain Zaraki didn't even propose to kill Rankar's child, so Mo Chengshuang also directly did it. Tōshirō was very surprised. Zaraki Kenpachi is good at fighting, yes, but he is also not good at killing those who cannot fight back. There are indeed uncontrollable factors between Shinigami and Shu, and it cannot be said that Mochung Shuang did something wrong. Jashiro said with lingering eyes. Although these Arrancars are children, they are a threat to this world or the Soul Society. It cannot be used to judge whether Mochung Shuangyi's approach is correct. Return to the video screen. Shinigami and Shu are opposites. Judging by your appearance, it seems that you can't understand my actions? Mole Chengshuang also smiled coldly. Zaraki Kenpachi naturally didn't sympathize with Rankar's child, he just wanted to have a good fight with Mo Chengshuang. No more nonsense, holding Nozarashi, raising your hand is a knife. The strong Ryotsu shook the entire portal and rushed towards Karakura town. Mole Chengshuang also stood there unscathed, and he continued to attack. Arrancar children are still falling to the ground one after another. Give up struggling, you are not my opponent, I am like air, I will never be hurt. Mole City Shuang also said indifferently. Zaraki Kenpachi smiled. It's also very interesting to be able to kill air. After finishing speaking, he raised his knife and chopped off again. Although he did not attend the meeting, he also learned some information about Mole City Kenpachi from Yamamoto Genryuzai later. However, he doesn't care about the ability of the opponent. If the Mole City Shuang is also the entire Seirei, just chop everything in the Seirei. For him, cutting is just right. Facing Zaraki Kenpachi, who was like a beast, Mojo City Shuang also chanted Kido directly. But this time it is not a chant, but a superimposition of various Kido. The voice of chanting is getting louder and more intensive. Immediately afterwards, inexplicable mouths grew out of the walls, ground, and ceiling of the entire boundary, and they kept singing Kido. When the chanting ended, huge energy waves gathered together, releasing earth-shattering power, swallowing the entire space, and at the same time the great Emperor's Ryotsu rushed out of the Meichuan gate again. Nani, you can still make things around you chant Kido together? Omeda outside the video, with a distorted fat face. Couldn't believe what happened in the video. If you can use spiritual particles to attach life to inorganic matter and control it, then forget it. They can even activate Kido together. This kind of ability is too strong. Tōshirō broke into a cold sweat, knowing that Kido is also a Shinigami's offensive method. A high-level Kido is extremely lethal. However, although the Kido chants chanted by Mojo Soya are relatively low-level, the inorganic objects that are attached with vitality can cast Kido together and add them together. The power is absolutely extraordinary. Although I understand some of the abilities of Mojo Soya, but the created life forms sing Kido together, who would have expected that? Captain, Mo Chengshuang is not an easy guy to deal with. Madarame Mikaku looked at Zaraki Kenpachi with serious eyes. If Mojojo used the same move to kill Kenpachi, Zaraki Kenpachi would probably be defeated. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed. Isn't it Kido, who can hurt me? Return to the video screen. With this Ryotsu burst out. At this time, people with spiritual power in Karakura town noticed the abnormality. Ishida Uryu, who felt Ryotsu in the distance, also showed doubts. Before, he sensed Luojia's aura and was with Guanyin Temple, and wanted to follow and investigate Arrancar's information, but was attracted by Ryotsu who erupted from the world transmitting gate. However, at this time, cracks opened in the black cavity, and besides some Arrancar children, there was also the Zauoro, who made his viscera ache when he saw it. Theon Glanz said to Luojia, who was staying with Guanyin Temple. Luojia, you obediently die, let me take out the spinning wheel in your body. Ishida Uryu was a little confused. Wasn't Zauoro killed by Kurotsuchi Mayuri? Regardless of other things, he can be sure that the person in front of him is an enemy. Sero. Theon grants no nonsense, straight to Sero. But Ishida Uryu shot out the light arrow of Lingza in time to interrupt it. There is Ishida Uryu in Theon's memory, but he doesn't intend to deal with Uryu. Luojia also sensed the master in front of her, full of a strange aura. Yulong wanted to continue to attack, but found that the surrounding railings entangled his arms. A strange voice slowly rang in his ear. The Quincy Master, Ishida Uryu. The appearance of Soya Mojo surprised Ishida Uryu very much. He didn't know this Shinigami wearing the captain's haori at all. Who are you? The captain of the 11th team, is it Zaraki Kenpachi? Yulong asked curiously, before Mo Chengshuang could speak. Theon Glanz on the side showed ecstasy after seeing Mochung Shuangye. Mochung Shuangye, you see, that Arrancar girl was transformed by me with your ability. Mole City Shuang also glanced at Theon, and just as he was about to speak, a strong Ryotsu suddenly approached. Not someone else, it's Zaraki Kenpachi. Are you still alive? Mo Chengshuang also looked at the figure walking out of the fireworks and said calmly. I thought Zaraki Kenpachi could be easily solved, but I didn't expect him to stand in front of me again unharmed. He deeply felt that the Ryotsu exuded by Zaraki Kenpachi at this moment was even more frightening. It's ridiculous. A Kido of this level thinks he can kill me? Zaraki Kenpachi outside the video smiled contemptuously. Scared me. I thought the battle between the larger captain and Zhou Chengshuangye was over. Shu Bing looked at Zaraki Kenpachi in surprise. Zaraki Kenpachi in the video does not have a Shikai, so he thinks that the Kido attack by Soya Moleyo just now must have hurt Zaraki anyway. It turned out that Zaraki Kenpachi hadn't even taken off his blindfold yet. The little Arrancar girl was actually researched by Zauoro through Mochung Shuangye. Jingle Chunshui sighed, he had a good impression of Luojia at first. But since Zauoro made it, it definitely has no good intentions. Return to the screen. Zaraki Kenpachi showed a ferocious smile. It's not enough, Mole City, Kenpachi. His voice became hoarse, and a starlight flickered in his eyes. Moleyo Soya doesn't know much about Zaraki Kenpachi, so he naturally doesn't know that the most terrifying thing about Zaraki Kenpachi is his growth. Since his coverage is only Seirei, Zaraki Kenpachi fights in Hueco Mundo and Neutra, which he has not seen. I don't know, Zaraki is no longer the Zaraki Kenpachi who tied with Kurosaki Ichigo at 337. At this moment, Yulujalu also discovered that the situation was not good. She reminded, Zaraki Kenpachi hasn't even taken off the blindfold yet, and the opponent in front of him still has an espada. You have to be careful. Do you want to go back to Seirei for training first? Mole Chengshuang also shook his head directly. He has no way out now. This time I was able to walk out of the Soul Society because of some negation traces left over from my dream. If you go back now, it will be difficult to come out later. Moreover, the current Luia is very dangerous. She is the hot target of Theon. If he leaves, she will definitely be killed. There is only one step away from realizing his wish. How could he turn back? The Mole City twins are also ready to manifest their blades in the air to kill Arenkar Kid and Theon. But he found that his ability could not be visualized. Since I have part of the source of your ability, I have already thought of a way to crack your ability, Theon Grants said with a mocking face. Mo Chengshuang didn't panic either, but Luo Jia couldn't calm down. One is the one who keeps claiming to kill her master, the other is Shinigami who is indifferent and wants to use her as a tool, and the other is Zaraki Kenpachi who is vicious. She was in a bit of a dilemma, and he also brought in the human Guanyin Temple. Naturally, Guanyin Temple could also see these spirits, and at the same time realized that the situation was very serious, so they took Luo Jia away directly. He really created a wolf-hearted guy. Seeing the two people who were drifting away, Sean Glanz was furious, and then grabbed a Picaro beside him, trying to vent his anger. He felt that Luia's ability was a hidden danger early on, but... Present world. Seeing that the Arenkar child in the hands of Theon Glanz was about to die, Zaraki Kenpachi said harshly. Why do you all like to bully little devils? Is this interesting? Did that Lorgar realize that your clone is going to take her life, and that's why you're so close to humans? Yami looked at Zauoro. Naturally, he is not promoting justice, but cares about how much pleasure Mojo Souza and Theon Grants in front of him can bring him. He never worried about what this tool man could do. Tang Guanyin stroked his sunglasses. A beautiful arc was drawn at the corner of the mouth. It seems that in the world of Shinigami and Shu, I am the most important protagonist. But when he was about to hit the two, Sero suddenly deviated from the track and shot towards the sky. Void Knight Palace. He is very depressed now. The clone he researched actually wants to swallow and replace him in the end. Zauoro ignored Yami. At this time, Theon Glanz was really angry at this time, glaring at Zaraki Kenpachi and Mole City Soya, and directly swallowed Zanpakuto. In the picture, Theon Glanz watched Guanyinzi drive Luia away in the car, just raised his hand, and the three beams of Sero rushed towards the sports car. Negation is an area that cannot be interfered by the outside world. Using negation silk flexibly can indeed exert a lot of power. Not with the help of others, but Roja's negation wires defend and bounce off Sero. Let's drink it, the evil concubine.